You very nearly never saw me this morning.
Why?
It was
What
as
happened?
close as I've come to sleeping.
Oh, you were
in.
thinking you got a wee
To
bit of a
sleeping
cough?
in. No, sleeping in.
Did you have a big sleep?
Yeah.
Were
You know when you
tired?
start when you start snoozing when you're half asleep, you snooze the alarm.
Yeah, you did that this morning. You were
tell you
tired.
one
What
thing.
time did you get to bed last
No, I
night?
was fine. It wasn't that. It was pure laziness.
Was it? No
Yeah,
harm
it
in
was
that.
in
So
bed
we
early.
all need a wee lazy
Yeah, but I
spell.
got here. I'm fine. But
you're all right
it
then.
was close.
Do you want a coffee?
No, I'm not. I'm fresh, Lee.
You're fresh.
Thanks.
All right.
Have a good morning.
All right, fresh boy. Good luck.
All right, take care of yourself. It is the 9 till noon show, the start of another week. Let's get the news update at 2 minutes past 9. It's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. There's further calls for the report into flooding at Letterkenny University Hospital to be published. The chair of the Regional Health Forum says it's shocking that 11 years on since the hospital was devastated by the flooding, reports have still not been made public. The CEO of the Sealta University Healthcare Group, Tony Canavan, says on the back of legal advice they are not in a position to publish the report at this time. Councillor Jerry McMonigal says while works have been carried out at the hospital, the cause of the flooding needs to be established.
Millions have been spent in remedial works to ensure that the flooding doesn't reoccur again, and it seems to be working. But that's not the point. The point that we need to get to the bottom of is why did it happen? How did it happen? And was the proper planning procedures that were in place followed at that time? And I think it's also imperative that the public are made aware of the investigation into it and the report, and I would hope that that report would be published sooner rather than later.
HSE employed GPs could become a possibility in areas where it's difficult to attract and retain staff. It's included in the terms of reference for a strategic review of general practice to be completed this year. The review aims to identify challenges facing the sector, such as GP shortages, and highlight where improvements should be made. Reforms to out-of-hours GP services will also be considered in the review to improve accessibility across the country. There's been a 15% increase in the number of people presenting as homeless in the northwest. Latest figures published by the Department of Housing show that during 1 week in February, 146 people, including 30 children, accessed emergency accommodation in the region. In the Donegal-Leitrim area, 56 people were without a home, up 14% when compared to the previous month. A man in his 30s has died following a crash in County Tyrone yesterday afternoon. The single vehicle collision involving a Vauxhall Vivaro van occurred at around 3:10 on the Garvala Road in Fintona. The man died at the scene. Police are appealing to anyone with information to come forward, and they say they are particularly keen to speak with the driver of a dark coloured Toyota Hilux who was seen in the area yesterday afternoon and who police believe it can help with their inquiries. Finally, for weather, mostly dry day today with a mix of cloud and hazy sunny spells. Some spots of light rain and drizzle with highest temperatures of 12 or 13 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Like cracking Easter offers from Aldi. Cadbury Dairy Milk Chunky Egg 400 gram, only $9.99. Plus Super 6 fresh Irish meat and fish offers, like smoked Coley fillets save 13%, only $2.59. And milk chocolate filled mini eggs for 79 cents, which saves even more of your Easter bunny money. Nah, I don't like it like that. I love it. Aldi, everyday amazing. Chunky egg offer limited to 2 per customer while stocks last.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9. It's Monday, the 3rd of April 2023. How are you keeping? I hope you had a lovely weekend as we head into a fresh new week. On a fresh day, actually. It seems quite pleasant out there. Hope it is the same wherever you are. We are open for business now. The phone line's open. You can give Caroline or Anya a call right now on 07491 25,000. Is there something you want to talk about, something you want to get off your chest? Now, this can be something that put you down over the weekend or something that elevated you as well. We want to hear all of your stories too, by the way. We're not just here looking for negative stuff or stuff that affects you in a negative way. If you've had something good happen to you too, we want to hear it. You can WhatsApp or text us on 086 60 25,000. WhatsApps and texts 086 60 25,000. And emails come to us at comments@highlandradio.com. And of course, if you want to, if you haven't before, make sure if you want to watch the show, you can head on over to YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland. That's through your Fire Stick, your smart TV, tablet, laptop, wherever way you want to watch us, or across our Facebook pages. Good morning to Tracy and Michael, who are already joining us watching the programme today. Let's look at the newspapers this morning, and we'll go inside the Donegal news. Tourists turning their backs on Ireland because of accommodation shortage, and I think we're going to be hearing an awful lot more about this. This is in the context, of course, that over 50% of Donegal's hotel rooms are currently being used to deal with the refugee crisis. So half of the rooms available in this county already are occupied. Fáilte Ireland's most senior official has told the Oireachtas that visitors are turning to other countries because of the lack of accommodation here. Paul Kelly was among a panel of representatives to address the Tourism, Culture, Arts, Sports and Media Committee. Delegates from the Irish Hotels Federation and the Irish Tourism Industry Confederation also made submissions on the challenges facing the visitor sector in Ireland at the moment. Paul Kelly said that as things stand, 1 in 3 guest beds outside of Dublin is contracted in the state for use as international protection accommodation. And as I mentioned, in Donegal, that figure stands at around 50%. It's a little higher, I think about 52%. So what impact that will have on tourism, tourists coming here, because if you can't get accommodation, you don't go somewhere. You don't turn up, on a wing and a prayer. You book your holiday, and if you can't get accommodation, you simply just don't go there. Now, that's all right if the hotels are full. They're making money, probably more money than they ever made, because there's guaranteed occupancy, those that are involved in that scheme. But there is your local cafes, your local restaurants and so on and so forth that won't see the footfall that they might ordinarily see. And as I said, this is something we were talking about well over a year ago, and the chickens now are coming home to roost. That's accommodation for tourists. What about accommodation for people living here? It's covered across all papers again today. It's a story that's simply not going to go away. And why should it go away? The Irish Times, the coalition is braced for further controversy over the ending of the eviction ban, with new figures set to show that thousands of notices to quit rented properties were served on tenants at the end of last year. Just days after the moratorium came to an end, the Residents' Tenancies Board is due to publish data outlining how many landlords issued a notice to quit to a tenant in the final quarter of 2022. Now, we know there's already, 4,000 were issued. That was before the last quarter of last year when they were anticipating this no-fault eviction ban ending, so it could be an avalanche. The draft version of the report has been shared with government officials, and according to a source, shows a similar number of notice of terminations being issued between October and December as in the previous 3 months. A total of 4,741 such notices were issued between last July and September. The government decided not to extend the ban on the so-called no-fault evictions beyond March 31st, which it put in place in October 30th last due to a severe shortage of accommodation as winter approached. It prevented landlords from evicting people even if they could be issued with a valid notice of termination. So as I say, that's one that's going to rumble on and on and on. Owen O'Brien for the opposition has been a key figure, obviously, from an opposition perspective in holding the government to account. And he did so, or tried to do so, with a tweet at the weekend, which I understand the point he was trying to make. And if you take the politics aside, I mean, his party obviously very much opposed to the ending of the eviction ban, but it was an image without any explanation that didn't have Eamon Ryan in it, it didn't have Leo Varadkar in it, it didn't have Micheál Martin in it, it didn't have landlords in it, it didn't have arguably all the people that you might feel, or some might feel, might be responsible for the ending of that eviction ban. Instead, it had Gardaí, and it was Gardaí sort of superimposed, and it was Gardaí from an actual eviction, by the way. It is a work they do carry out. Gardaí superimposed on a famine eviction, and it drew an awful lot of anger from government TDs. Of course, they're going to hop all over it, but also members of An Garda Síochána were upset at it because Owen O'Brien then had to explain, and when you're explaining, you know yourself, that the Gardaí weren't the target of his point. It was the government, but it was the Gardaí that were front and centre, so the Gardaí are upset at it. Did you see the image? What did you think? 086 60 25,000. I described it on social media as a PR disaster, and of course then loads of people were sort of getting on to me about this, that and that. It's not about the politics, right? But if you want to make a point and then you say no words needed, but then you have to explain it, and there's going to be more explanations going to have to happen at the start of the week. It's not good PR. It could have been done in a different way, perhaps, but he stands by it, and that's up to him. But Justice Minister Simon Harris, obviously, he saw this as something that he could get involved in. He'll today strongly criticise Sinn Féin for increasing the risk of attacks on members of An Garda Síochána through what he deems are inaccurate and provocative posts on social media. Now, I'm not quite sure it'll increase risks of attack, but what it did invite is an awful lot of criticism of An Garda Síochána from all political spectrum. Those who have an issue with the Guards, it was like a red light or green light, to sort of jump on it and criticise them. And I think that's what's going to bother the Gardaí more, even though they do be involved in these type of evictions, even more so than the risk of attack. But anyway, in remarks clearly referring to a weekend post by Sinn Féin housing spokesperson Owen O'Brien, which borrows heavily from artwork relating to land war evictions in Ireland of the late 19th century, Mr Harris is expected to say that this approach to an already sensitive issue is dangerous at a time when assaults, hostility and aggression against Gardaí are on the increase. The Minister's comments will come as he addresses the annual conference of the Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors. But I'd be very interested to hear what the AGSI believes the government is doing to offer them any further protection, because the Guards are looking for measures which aren't yet forthcoming. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of reception the Justice Minister gets in that context. Staying with the Gardaí, this is in the Irish Daily Mail. Gardaí have criticised unfair comments by Commissioner Drew Harris that staff who misgender colleagues could face disciplinary action, and have called for the new transgender policy to be withdrawn. In February, the force issued a new policy document, Gender Identity in the Workplace, which stated that compliance was mandatory for all An Garda Síochána members and staff. Last week, Mr Harris said that the misgendering of a person could lead to discipline. Those comments have sparked anger amongst Gardaí, who say there has been a lack of consultation and education on the subject. The topic will be discussed at the 45th Annual Association of Garda Sergeants and Inspectors Delegate Conference, which meets today in Galway. Right, on to the tabloids now. Not a great deal in them, not going to lie to you. Let's start with the Irish Daily Star. Security will be boosted at the Aintree Grand National after a plot by animal rights activists to sabotage the event was exposed. And I'm really surprised this hasn't happened on a grand scale before. I do recall a number of decades ago someone running out in front of the Grand National, but more than 100 protesters had reportedly backed Animal Rebellion's plan to make a statement in front of the iconic racing event's global audience. Undercover footage showed members talking of using ladders and bolt cutters to beat security fences at Aintree ahead of the race on April 15th before gluing themselves together as a human barrier on the course. Animal Rebellion wants all animal farming and fishing banned and an end to horse racing, which is claimed is animal abuse. But they were caught out undercover plotting that, and now security has been greatly increased. I read this because I don't believe it. Do you feel that you have to change your accent for your smart speaker? Lots of you out there now, and many of you listening on this, are listening on your Alexa, your Dot, or your Google Home. But apparently, that's a smart speaker, by the way, that's connected to the internet, and you can just give it voice commands. A quarter of Irish people admit to toning down their accent because voice-activated devices like Alexa can't understand them. A study found 72% of the population use voice assistants during the course of the day, but with varying success. Some 46% of Kerry folk, 44% of Westmeath locals, and 40% of those in Mayo and Sligo confess to modifying their pronunciation to the machine so it could comprehend them. A fifth also acknowledged screaming at the application in frustration when it was unable to carry out their wishes. I've done that, I'm not going to lie to you. Residents in Westmeath, 38%, Galway 29% and Mayo 27% were found to be the most likely to lash out at voice assistants after accident-related hiccups. I don't see a figure for Donegal here. I'll have another glance through. We probably got a press release into the email at some point, but do you find that you have to tone down your accent for your smart speaker to fully respond to you? Let us know. I know it's not the most important thing in the world too, but there's light and shade. 086 60 25,000. Do you have to? Sell your soul, really, so your smart speaker will switch your lights off, will play Highland Radio. And finally in the Sun today, big nosed blokes are... now check your wing mirror or check your... your back mirror, or turn to your right and have a look at his nose. Big nosed blokes are more likely to cheat on their partners, a poll says. More than half, 52%, who admit doing the dirty sport above average sized hooters. Of those, 78% believe women are attracted by their large facial organs, but only 10% said the women they had flings with also possessed a large hunker. All right, okay, well, that's that. 086 60 25,000 if you want to get involved in any of those issues, those topics. Oh, give us a call too. 074 91 25,000. We're going to be talking about an incredible fall of rain and its impact towards the end of last week. So stay right where you are, and hopefully if you're listening and you came across it, you'll want to get involved in the conversation too.
Letterkenny Medics are pleased to announce that Dr. Paula Gomez has joined the practice and is now taking appointments for free meal screening with services that include complete medical examinations, physical examinations, blood tests, cervical smears, advice on menopausal fertility hormone profile, AMH urinalysis, cervical smear, ECG and 24-hour blood pressure monitoring. Choose your level of service you need today and find out more by booking your immediate appointment by visiting letterkennymedics.ie. Letterkenny Medics. We listen if you want to talk.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
Let BizPrint the printers help with your business marketing and printing to get your 2023 off to the right start. BizPrint the printers, Port Road, Letterkenny. Call 91 77955 or see bizprint.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time's 18 minutes past 9. Right, we're joined on the programme now by Marion. Good morning, Marion.
Hi, good morning, Greg.
Good to chat to you. Now, talk to me about these flash floods. It was Friday evening, wasn't it, as we headed towards 7 o'clock? You were out and about. What did you see?
Well, I would normally, it's up in the Drumfergus area here, up past the crossroads. I would normally travel this road on a regular basis because I go up there and I turn, left up at the junction to get up to my house. But I travel often, and pretty often it's flooded, and quite badly flooded. And especially the last house seems to take, as you go up the hill, seems to take the brunt of all the water. And I've noticed it over the past 6 or 7 years that I've lived up here. And, I've seen the council has been out a couple of years ago trying to fix the problem because the wee man in the last house is always getting flooded. And it goes down in quite a bit of force. But Friday night was just an alleviate zone. It was that bad. I had to move the car, obviously, because it was like a river coming down the whole road. And I got my daughter to film the road because the road was actually breaking up. And there was no way you could get up the road. It's just a flow of a river coming down. And I noticed a couple of the neighbours were out at the end house, especially where this elderly man lives. With big boards, some type of boards, and I don't know if it was a manhole or whatever. It was too far up to see myself. Trying to help the man to save his house, and then the other houses below his house, you know, obviously torrential. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen it once in Norway, a road breaking up, you know, to some extent. But I've never seen this before, ever. I'm 58, been driving for 38 years or so.
Yeah.
And as I was turning the car, you know, it was going into the other houses as well at some force, and you could actually see in the video the road breaking up as Robin, my daughter, was taking the video. So I headed back down the road, went back into the crossroads at the village, and attempted to go up by Donegal Creameries, up past the Bad Bed, the locals know it, and take a left and try and reach my home from the upper way. Took a left and drove down there, and that was just, it was a force. It was frightening, and it was like a river, and it wasn't as though it was a river had burst in it, because we're up at the top of the mountain here, we're chatting. So I had to actually reverse the car all the way back up onto the main road, then head up the Gleneley Primary School and go round by the left. And a 2-minute journey ended up taking me half an hour. I was just so shocked. People having to put up with it. These people living, I've seen it constantly flood. Well, not constantly, regularly flooded in the past 6-7 years. But and the scale of it. Actually, whenever I was turning my car, I spoke to one of the neighbours, and I says to him, I've never seen anything like this before, you know, in Ireland. I says, and I've seen it flooded here often, but this is just, and he had said that the council had been up a couple of years ago, and even after that, he says, what it is today, he says it was like this even in the past couple of years. This is the second time for it to be in such a bad state. Apparently it ruined his garden with the force of the water. And I know a friend of mine lives in one of the houses. I heard that even the concrete in her yard, it was tearing up, you know, their house, tearing that up. No, I don't know how bad it is. And then so that ended up Caroline seeing the video on Facebook. So,
well, listen, thanks very much for sharing your experience with us, Marion. I really appreciate it. Sounds shocking indeed. Lawrence is a homeowner in the Killygordon area. Lawrence, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be speaking to you in this context because it started raining about 4:30 on Friday. How quickly did you realise this was going to be a problem for you?
Within about 10, 15 minutes. After that, I went out and it was heavy rain about 4:30, and the next time I went out again, the flood was ready to come in the door. I had a barrier already and sitting in the house in case of flooding that I used before. This is maybe second, third time. And I put the barrier across, but I couldn't do anything else with the water out on the road, which was about 5 metres out from the door. And only for the good work of my neighbours, they were there, they were finishing up work, they were there within 10 minutes. And I would have been a lot worse situation, but the water still got into the house, into the kitchen, 4 inches, and into the little dining room. Again, so this is the worst time ever. Now, it's an ongoing issue for the last 12 years, and I have been on to the council and writing them to them, and in fairness, the council did come out and do what they thought was necessary at different times in regarding the flooding. At this time now, I think I had two council workers out, an overseer and another man this morning early, and nothing can be done until engineers come and assess the problem.
And Lawrence, from your own perspective, I mean, obviously the water will quickly subside, but I imagine there's an absolute mess in the house. Is this your own property? Like, are you responsible for bringing it back up to a livable standard for yourself, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'm not hearing you too well, Greg, because of the signal.
No problem. I should speak a little louder. What I'm saying is this your property? Are you responsible for its repair now? Because it's going to be left in a mess, even though the water is gone.
Yeah, well, I've been working to 12 o'clock on Friday night, and then on Saturday again, mucking out the kitchen, throwing out mats and whatever. But I've sort of got used to the idea of the flooding for the number of years, and I just appeal to the engineers at this stage to come and have a good look at what's happening. And like when the water passed my place down the road, it went onto other neighbours, ripped up concrete and destroyed another man's garden completely. Just washed decorative stones away into a burn. And what the solution is, just it'll be up to the engineers. I'm not an engineer, but
can you pinpoint something that happened 12 years ago that led to this? I mean, are we seeing more rain, or was there a development, or?
I think the pipe work has been overwhelmed, and it's not able to take the flow of water now, and with maybe something to do with climate change, there are more extreme flooding everywhere, and storms and whatever, and but a lot. I mean, way back years ago, maybe the pipe work everywhere was sufficient enough to take the water flow, but not anymore. It needs to be looked at, especially here in this area anyway, where I am. And there's a lot of high land above me, and
every bit of development contributes to it. Every new house maybe is new water going into the drain or taking runoff or whatever it might be. Finally, Lawrence, obviously you've been through a very difficult experience. You've got a great attitude. You shouldn't have to have in that, roll your sleeves up and sort of get the house clean because you're somewhat used to this happening. But we don't want this happen. We don't want this happen again. But what I wanted to say is you're blessed, obviously, and fair play to having brilliant people around you in terms of neighbours and those that were...
Can I mention some of the neighbours' names that helped me?
The airwaves are yours, Lawrence. You name whoever you like that helped you.
Right. Well, first of all, I have my next-door neighbour here, Sean Kelly, and his son, Stephen. And Seamus Donaghy and his son, Dara, came with a tractor and, what else? Lingbox. David Byrne down the road as well. That got damage done. Mark Lynch, who was talking to this morning earlier, and Mickey Gibson, who lives further down the road, about a half a mile from here. As soon as he heard anything was going on, he knew that I'd be in danger, and he came to help. And without all them people, I'm more grateful.
All right, Lawrence, listen, hopefully we can get to a solution here so that you don't have to live in fear of this happening again. And fair play to your great neighbours and friends that were there for you, Lawrence.
And even, when the council put in some pipes here way back years ago, I was more left in charge to clean the gratings and stuff like that, keep the leaves away off them. And it's just sad to see the road all being ripped up.
All right, Lawrence, listen, thank you for your time and an awful weekend you've been through. Councillor Patrick McGowan has been waiting patiently, listening to both Lawrence and Marion there. Thank you for your time this morning, Councillor. I do appreciate it. I mean, you heard from Lawrence there. He sounds like a very pragmatic individual. He sounds like he should be more peed off than he actually is, but he's clearly an absolute gentleman. There's just no doubt about that. But what is the story? What needs to be done now to stop this happening in this Drumfergus area of Killygordon? I mean, firstly, if you want to start with what you have learned about what happened on Friday evening.
Yeah, well, I hadn't been long down from the... As you know, we had the minister and Stenarder, just had done the official opening. Now, just as that was finishing out, there was quite a bit of muzzle coming on around, and I went home, and a few hours later then I just got the phone call from neighbours up there, and couldn't believe it was that bad, because where I was looking out, it was just still muslin. So I landed over there, and obviously the main flash flood, if you want to call it that, had just sort of had just gone by, and there was water running all over the fields, like just everywhere, and there was quite a bit of damage. As I say, there's probably about 50 to 100 metres of road completely washed away. There's about 4 to 6 inches of tar and such just sitting there all bubbled up, lying in lumps. There's big tracks down the side of the road, and as I say, a lot of this had washed into Lawrence's house. He was the first house in that road, and then a lot of the debris and everything else, they went down into people's gardens, just washed away all their stones and things around their nice gardens, their driveways, everything. But the place was just, it was an absolute mess.
In terms of fixing this, is this a problem in terms of drainage in front of these houses or along these houses, or are the problems much further up, which would make it a much bigger job in terms of controlling this flood water?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's much further up. I've said this before when this happened. The council has been out different times, and they've repiped drains and diverted drains further up, and they've done some work lower down, but it's too late when it's further down. They need to go up. There's actually 2 roads here. There's an upper road and a lower road, and the water's running down through one road into the fields. And I know the council have been out, and this is very important. I've been speaking to local property owners or landowners trying to get an agreement, and this is something you would have heard councillors talking about many years ago, 40, 50 years ago. You had land drainage committees in the council, but the council wouldn't work with landowners because there seems to be, there's obviously these big summer flash floods coming, and a lot of landowners and property owners and forestry and everything else do a lot of their own draining, but they just drain to the end of their property, and we seem to be getting a lot more water.
But the problem is I know you're talking about this, and that's historic. Going back 40, 50 years ago, there's one office in Donegal Town that coordinated all of this. And we spoke to the gentleman in the past that used to work in that office, and they didn't see any of these problems. It was all joined up thinking. We're not there. We've been talking about trying to get there for a number of years, of course, and I don't think that's going to be the solution going forward with respect. So how serious are the council taking the issue of the flooding in this area? We can't have people like Lawrence and others living in fear of this flood water. Patrick, are you getting any sense from those you're speaking to that they have a solution in mind?
No, to be honest with you, I'm frustrated about this as well, because it's that area, and there's 2 roads on either side, and they're being getting flooded as well. It's halfway down a hill near Glenealy School there. And the problem is, to me, they're addressing the problem in the wrong area. They're addressing the problem down at Lawrence's house. And they need to go up and divert some of the water away. The one thing the council needs here, and this is nearly always the case, they need cooperation with landowners, saying that very clearly. If they don't, the council, now what happens in this case here now, the council will go out to an engineer investigate. They will apply to the department for a special grant now to resurface that road and to put in more drains. But if they just put the same drains in the same place, we're going to get the exact same problem.
But there is a responsibility, is there not, with landowners to make sure those drains are cleared, that the runoff from their land doesn't necessarily go out onto roads. I mean, maybe they have to get a little bit tough here, because I don't think anyone would want to feel that their inaction is causing this kind of heartache and inconvenience to someone like Lawrence, an absolute gentleman.
No, and you're 100% right. There's also the case that landowners believe that water is entering their property from an upper road or from somebody else, and it's this sort of every year now the council within the HMD, the council's doing about 4 or 5 community assistance schemes where they're working with landowners' property, doing drainage, putting in pipes and rediverting, all working together very, very successfully. Lots of people out there know these schemes, to see them happening. So there is funding through the department. You have to apply and prioritise. This would certainly be a priority. And the council have to redouble their efforts. It's up to the council. And if it is a case that landowners are not cooperating, then the council is called a local authority.
You see, I'm all for getting funding right, getting funding, getting works approved and all that kind of stuff. And I know what has to be done to do that. What I'm not hearing, though, is anyone telling you and us, if they wanted to, a solution. What are they seeking funding for? What are they going to do about it? What will fix this problem? Do you know, there's no point fixing that road again, putting up a few signs, changing a pipe, when it seems quite clear. And I've never been there. And my first question was, is this a local problem or is it further up? So you know what I mean? And you've been there and you identify that. So what people like Lawrence need is solutions. What's going to fix this? And then we'll talk about getting some funding and spending it. That's what's absent in this conversation. You've got a theory. I have a theory. Lawrence has a theory. But we have very expert people, I would hope, working within the county council to say this is what's causing it, this is how we fix it. That's what people like Lawrence want to hear, I think, Patrick.
Yeah, well, I think Lawrence and I and most of the neighbours down there will be all in one mind of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And the council has been doing small remedial works, which has obviously not, it's actually got worse. If truth be told, when you look at what happened, that's the worst yet. So the council knows now what to do. I would say there's very little design work. I think they could do it straight away, but they're going to have to use the authority, part of the local authority, to go in and do it. And it's no good here. They can't wait any longer. And if they're going to spend money now, which will have to open that road again, they have to start with the drainage and then do the road and save these houses, because certainly, and only for them good neighbours, and I did see them all out helping their Lord's situation will be a lot worse. And he has left himself to be told to go to insurance, but you're not getting insurance for that year after year. So
no, and it's no way to, because, you talked about it being a mizzle. You never really know what's happening half a kilometre up the road and what's going to come washing down the hill, and he doesn't deserve to be living in those circumstances. He's a taxpayer like the rest of us, and it's not his fault, and you recognise that too, by the way. I hope you don't think I'm preaching to you. I think we're on the same page on this.
I agree 100%.
Right, okay, well listen, keep us in the loop on it, Patrick, and hopefully a resolution is found. Thank you very much for your time this morning, it's greatly appreciated. 086 60 25,000, WhatsApps and texts to that number.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Spring is here, and so too are the new arrivals at Green Shoes. Shop in store or online now from best-selling brands like Doc Martens, Una Healy and Echo. Also Riker, Kate Appleby, Tommy Bow and many more. Shop LK and One for All gift cards accepted in store. Visit Green Shoes and discover the perfect footwear to complement your style. Green Shoes at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre, Fulcara and online at greenshoes.com.
For over 20 years, CarZone has been the trusted name in Ireland's motoring marketplace, bringing 1 million car buyers and sellers together every month. And now, buying or selling a car has never been easier on CarZone with expert tools and advice. Download the CarZone app or check out carzone.ie. CarZone, Ireland's trusted motoring marketplace.
Does the start of another week start you dreaming of adventure? Then swap your well-worn paths for the winding trails of Lough Key Forest Park or the meandering cobble streets of Kilkenny. For more short break ideas, visit discoverireland.ie. Book early for the best value and keep discovering.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more? Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
For confirmation and First Communion, there's a great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Top brands include 1880 Club, Diesel and Tommy Bow Footwear, all at great prices. Stand out for the big day at Watson Menswear, open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
Be prepared for training and match day with Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, with a variety of mouthguards, shorts, socks and boots from O'Neill's, ATAC and Adidas. Exclusive Michael Murphy GAA gloves are available in 4 different styles. You'll find everything your team needs to succeed on match day at michaelmurphysports.ie.
For confirmation and First Communion, there's a great selection of suits, casual wear and footwear at Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Top brands include 1880 Club, Diesel and Tommy Bow Footwear, all at great prices. Stand out for the big day at Watson Menswear. Open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny and at watsonmenswear.com.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. Dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
We should all be grateful to Vespula vulgaris, the common Irish wasp, because Vespula vulgaris is equipped with an early warning system, only audible when you're in harm's way, just like front assist, driver alert and lane assist. Early warning systems equipped as standard on Volkswagen's T-Cross, T-Roc and Taigo SUVs, which only kick in when you need them. Search Volkswagen SUV.
Volkswagen. Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
So it's a mostly dry day today with a mix of cloud and hazy sunny spells. Some spots of light rain and drizzle will occur. Highest temperatures of 12 or 13 degrees in moderate to fresh south to south east winds easing by the evening. Now they are forecasting some wet weather over Tuesday night into Wednesday, but beyond that, for the next couple of weeks, their long-range forecasts are telling us that things might be quite dry. Right, okay. We are joined in studio now by John Joe McGowan, who's Chief Ambulance Officer with HSE West. Thank you so much for joining us, John Joe. Good to have you on the programme.
Good morning, Greg.
We're talking about the Pathfinder Alternative Care Pathway. It's one of a number of measures being introduced at Letterkenny University Hospital to address overcrowding at the ED. So can you talk us through it, John Joe? This is a trial, is it?
Yeah, no, not so much a trial. It was trialled in Dublin, Greg. So Pathfinder's a new service being introduced in Donegal. It's an initiative between the National Ambulance Service and the Letterkenny University Hospital, and it includes a team which respond to or low priority 999 calls for older adults. So this team basically goes out to the scene of the low priority calls and assesses the medical, functional and mobility assessment of the patient, and that's all with a view to keeping the patient at home as opposed to transporting them to the busy ED department. So the team is made up of, it's a multidisciplinary team. It's made up of advanced paramedics from our side, and then from the hospital side it's made up, and the community side also, it's made up of 2 physiotherapists and 2 occupational therapists. And as I say, their view is to go to this call set or group of calls in our low acuity or our low priority calls and assess the patient with a view to keeping them at home.
Have you any concerns that this might take a while to bed in that you might have patients or their families that want to err on the side of caution, and they might feel the hospital setting is the right place for that, even though all the gear, all the expertise might be at the house, but you know what I mean? They've probably got to the point where they've made a decision that the loved one needs the care that a hospital can give.
Yeah, exactly, Greg. So when somebody dials 999, they're nearly always in that position that they've done all they can at home. They've predominantly gone to the pharmacist and got the medications over the counter and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's definitely, and that's what one of the team's trained to do, is speak with the family members, speak with the patient first of all, and then also speak with the family members to reassure them. But the team also has two sets. So the first part of the team is to go out, assess the patient with this view, and then there's a follow-up part to the team where within 24 hours they make contact with the patient again, and then further assessment. As opposed to also just leaving the patient at home, I suppose it does what it says on the tin. It's a Pathfinder project, so it finds alternative pathways for the patient.
Because there are another group out there, John Joe, who might be reluctant to call 999 because they don't want to end up in hospital. And you know, there could be poor outcomes as a result of that. So there might be a counterbalance there. In other words, we might catch people that ordinarily might delay to the last minute to call an ambulance.
Yeah, exactly. So you do have that the two ends of the spectrum, one of them being the patients that don't want to call an ambulance because ultimately don't end up in the hospital. And that's one of the groups of patients that this team is geared to help with that view to keeping them out of the hospital, send them on an alternative pathway, and hopefully avoiding that experience of long hospital delays, etc.
Now, of course, you know, you're using medical language in terms of low level and that type of stuff, and you know what might be deemed as low level and not requiring acute hospital might be quite serious to someone else, and you know, that's very understandable, the language that you use, because that's how you prioritise patients and what have you. Yeah. So what kind of calls do you think might be able to be dealt with at home? It's going to be on a case-by-case basis with a full assessment, don't get me wrong, but can you give us sort of some examples of cases that might end up in ED waiting to be assessed on site that might be able to be sorted by this other system?
Yeah. So this Pathfinder predominantly looks at the over 65s, and the call sets that we were going for that would be things like non-traumatic back pain, falls, sick persons. That's prioritised through our triage system as a lower priority sick person, and traumatic injuries that's not life-threatening. So when you dial 999, Greg, you're put through a triage system, and that categorises the calls into 6 categories. On one end of the spectrum, you have your echoes and deltas, which is very serious, life-threatening calls, your cardiac arrest, your respiratory arrest, your chest pains. And then on the other side of the spectrum is your alpha and omega calls. So that's what this group is aimed at, is these alpha and omega call groups.
A lot of people attend Letterkenny University Hospital with respiratory complaints. Yeah. Would they be classed as sort of alpha and delta?
The respiratory complaints, depending on the severity, and the triage system sort of determines that. Most predominantly would be classed as delta. Your shortnesses of breath are predominantly all delta calls. But then on the other side, there is small one, say the likes of the colds and flus, or more so much the flus with the high temperatures and all that there, and they can be very serious for the elderly.
Yeah, and that's why you have the experts that call out. I get that, but
exactly,
like dehydration, things like that.
Yeah, all them things, and the clinical assessment will come into play with the advanced paramedic, and then the other assessments will come in with the occupational therapists and the functionality assessments and the mobility assessments. And this team also carries with it equipment, the likes of walking frames or commodes and different things like that will be able to help the elderly in their day-to-day living.
I mean, in your heart of hearts, do you see this as, I mean, we know the necessity of this, okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about the impact it might have, but in your heart of hearts, do you see this as an advancement in terms of the care of the elderly, who are already feeling like they're the root of all problems, you know, the way things are presented in the media? Me and you don't believe that, but I've talked about that on this programme before. So do you see this an advancement and an improvement of healthcare for them? Is it maybe a step back to keep them out of the acute hospital, or is it a sideways step whereby they're going to get the same level of care, but just maybe in a different environment?
No, it's most definitely an advancement, Greg. Everything now is moving towards care of the patient closer to the home.
Most want that, don't they?
Yes, exactly. So it's most definitely an advancement. This is a highly skilled team of a multidisciplinary scale that will be able to bring basically the hospital services that they would get in hospital to the home. Yeah. And again, that follow-up gives the reassurance to the patient that they're not being left alone. We're not just going out and seeing them and they're being left there, but it's that follow-up piece that gives the reassurance and helps them.
And I hope you know, I'm sure you do, the motivation for my questions is to help in that reassurance, not to in any way question the service. So presumably then, this means that a person who qualifies for this, and that's all done through the triage, by the way, no risks are going to be taken, I'm absolutely sure of that they will get treatment or attention much quicker. I mean, rather than maybe being in an ambulance for a couple of hours outside the hospital, or being in the ED on uncomfortable chairs waiting to be triaged and maybe eventually seen, they might have that in the comfort of their armchair in the front room or in the bed in the house. I mean, And also, then, of course, it can be difficult when people have been checked over and, things aren't as bad as things might seem. There still can be delays in discharge. So they're in there when they don't really even need to be in there, and they want to go home as well. It's impossible to put a figure on this, I'd imagine. Or is it? Like, how many cases do you think this might take from the acute hospital? Or how do you feel it might impact the services there? Because this is part of a raft of things, isn't it? It's not one thing. It's no silver bullet. This is one of many initiatives. So can you give us a sense of what kind of impact you think this will have on the hospital?
Yeah, so in terms of figures, off our call volume, 20% fall into that low acuity bracket. So if you take, for instance, in the Northwest, on average, we do about between 60 and 60 being a good day, 75 being a very busy day. We do about 60 to 75 calls a day. So we're hopefully having 20% of that volume seen by this team. Then, in addition to that, this team it was previously set up in Dublin. On average, it's keeping about 60% to 70% of their patients at home. So it's quite a high percentage of being kept at home. Which
I hope
is good.
this works. I think this could be really, really significant, especially with through no fault of the hospital necessarily, hospital-acquired illness as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where someone goes into hospital for something and ends up catching something else. It happens all the time, and we've talked to the hospital manager about it. It's no slight on them. Here's a text. Had this service for our elderly father at the end of last year for dehydration. After a couple of hours, he was comfortable in our own home. A great service. That's the kind of thing we're talking about then, yeah?
So that caller's probably talking about, as this service is not live yet, it goes live this week. That caller's probably talking about another service that we have, which is the community paramedic service. And that is, again, like the Pathfinder service. Its view is to keep people at home and treated at home. So that's a paramedic or an advanced paramedic on their own, going to lower acuity calls with a different... They look at things like the dehydration, they look at the catheterization and stuff like that there, and the generally unwell people, again, with a view to keeping them at home as well.
What impact might this have on ambulance availability and response times?
Yeah, so we've well broadcasted, Greg, that we have a demand versus capacity issue, where our demand is growing day on day and our capacity isn't growing as fast. So we hope it's one of the strings in the bows to help alleviate this pressures that we're seeing on the ambulance service in the county. As I say, we have other initiatives ongoing, the likes of the community paramedic. We have a clinical hub, so when you dial 999 now, it goes through a further assessment by a doctor and a nurse and an advanced paramedic for, again, these low priority calls. So again, as you said earlier, it's no silver bullet, but hopefully with all these things coming together, we hope to keep on top of that demand with this additional capacity. We've also made it well known that we're in a massive recruitment buzz at the minute. So we're recruiting. We hope to double our workforce in the next 5 to 7 years.
This is in Donegal.
All over nationally.
Right, nationally, okay.
Over the last year, we've increased our staff count by 12, and we hope to in August this year again increase it by another 7. They're small numbers.
This is kind of a random one, but you know what? It might fall on one or two sets of ears. Yeah. If someone has an interest in this and they're 16 or 17, you know what I mean, and they're listening or whatever, and they might have an interest in this area of health. What do you study? Like, what is the pathway to qualification in this area?
Yeah, so your science subjects in your leaving cert would be one of the big ones, and then maybe get involved in some of the voluntary organisations throughout the country, the likes of the Order of Malta, the Red Cross, St John's Ambulance, and that there to view, and that gives a sort of an inkling into what's to come in this service.
Well, that's it, and this is your long-term plan, because I remember the time of the crash 2008, 2009. Yeah. There was no one went to study architecture, and then 3 or 4 years later, when things turned around, there was no one coming at us, because we think in the moment, rather than what might be coming down the line in 3 or 4 years. Aquila says, does this mean, for example, that antibiotics via IV and O2 needed will be put on at the spot? if appropriate, of course, instead of taking the elderly person from the warm bed in the district hospitals and nursing homes to LUHED. So we've been talking about residential responses. So does this apply to...
Yeah.
Go ahead, yep.
No, not so much residential responses. This is more in the home. The residential responses, this team is set up for more mobility and functionality assessment. So it's moving away slightly from that medical. Now, it's very much in its infancy, and the team will expand throughout the years. But
presumably there's an element of professional triaging done in a nursing home, is there,
yes,
or a district hospital, that, in other words, they're far more at an advanced stage to make a call on whether acute hospital admission is required.
Exactly,
I'd imagine.
yeah.
We don't have that skills base in the home.
Yeah, exactly. And most residential nursing homes and that have the likes of GPs attached to them. They have a nursing cohort of staff, and they have a more advanced assessment technique, and they have more access to assessments that you wouldn't have in your home. So thus ruling that group of calls out.
For the time being.
For the time being, yeah, most definitely.
When does the Pathfinder alternative care pathway then begin to be rolled out, or are we speaking as it is?
So the team started this morning. Now they have a training element to go through for about a week and a half. And that's different things, like they have to do their manual handling training. They're coming from the hospital setting. It's a slightly different techniques and that in the community. They have a MAPA training course, and that's to deal with violence and aggression that may come across on scenes. And then they have a number of the occupational therapists and the physiotherapists have to do their advanced life support training, etc. So that takes about, and they're going for a ride along with the Dublin team. Also for a number of days. So we hope, not that we hope, but we aim to go live on next Wednesday, the 12th.
Okay.
To tender first calls, that is.
And presumably no risks will be taken.
No, definitely not.
If this team determine that the best care for the individual is in hospital, they will still be transported to the hospital.
Exactly, Greg. Yeah, following the assessments, and they are detailed medical assessments. If it's deemed that the patient is best suited to go into the hospital, that's where they'll be going.
Right, okay. As I say, the listeners will decide what they think. It's just I know, and we get contacted by a lot of people that I think would far prefer to get the peace of mind or attention in their home rather than be... That's very stressful to be transported to the hospital despite the best efforts. Then the delays, either in the ambulance or on chairs, you know what I mean? And then even getting discharged, it can be. So hopefully if this helps... the people we hope it will, that's all good. All right, okay, so this will be just rolled out. It'll become clear. Have you any message to people when these teams arrive? In other words, in terms of trust, or this is something new, or listen, we want her to go to the hospital?
Yeah, although it's a new service, the people on this team are highly experienced OTs, physios, and advanced paramedics. They've been, I know from the paramedic side alone, like you could have up to 40, 50 years experience in that team. They're highly skilled professionals. They will not take any risk. The ambulance service and the hospitals and all medical services are completely a risk-adverse organisation. So they will always err on the side of caution. So just for your listeners not to be worried about that side of things. Again, the follow-up will also help in relation to giving that reassurance and assessment and looping back in within the 24 hours. And again, if the patient's condition does ever deteriorate after that call, we would advise them to call 999 straight away again, and we'll have an ambulance with them.
Yeah, and their previous visit will be on file, and a further decision be able to make.
Exactly, and that's one of the good things about this team too, Greg, is they can tie in with the hospital file systems, and they'll be able to get the past medical history and all that of the patients.
Know your air code, put it on the fridge as well, if you're listening.
Exactly, yeah.
John Joe McGowan, Chief Ambulance Officer with the HSE West, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Greg.
Back after the news.
Get set for spring at B&Q with 3 for 2 on interior paint, including all paint mixing. With brands like Dulux, Valspar and Farrow & Ball. Shop in store or at DIY.ie. That's spring nailed. You can do it. Exclusions apply. Value of every third item per single transaction and descending price order deducted. End 17th April. See DIY.ie.
Show the Monday Blues the door. kick them into touch, banish them for good. With a wee treat at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny. Maybe a coffee and scone, or an all-day breakfast, or a burger and chip. With American-style booth seating, fast and friendly service, a menu packed with tasty choices at great value, and loads of parking, it's a great stop-off any day of the week. Take back your Mondays at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Boys Travel Ramelton continue to provide quality tours to top attractions including Bloom in the Park, Dublin Zoo and Emerald Park, formerly Tato Park. For details on these and many more tours, see Boys Tours on Facebook or call 9151043.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to roll out the red carpet and celebrate the best and brightest in the business world for the Highland Radio Customer Service Awards in association with PGIM Ireland.
From your local community centre to your favourite pet shop or your friendly dentist, we're recognising the businesses who are making a difference in your community.
This award is a great way to show your appreciation for the businesses that make a difference in your life.
But you better act fast. The deadline for entries is just around the corner. So visit our website and nominate now. Nominations close this Friday, the 7th of April.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donal Kavanagh at the news desk. 88 eviction notices were reinstated in Donegal following the lifting of the eviction ban over the weekend. It comes following an increase in the number of people presenting as homeless in the northwest. Latest figures published by the Department of Housing show that during 1 week in February, 146 people, including 30 children, accessed emergency accommodation in the region, up 60% on the same period last year. In the Donegal-Leitrim area, 56 people were without a home, up 14% when compared to the previous month. Noel Daly, CEO of the Northwest Simon Community, says there simply isn't enough accommodation to cope with the number of people facing homelessness as a result of the eviction ban.
I find it hard to imagine that Donegal County Council could find emergency accommodation for all of those households if they presented today looking for accommodation. It would seem to be quite difficult for them to do that. And as we go into the summer and the tourist industry ramps up, it's going to become more and more difficult for people to accommodate new households.
HSE employed GPs could become a possibility in areas where it's difficult to attract and retain staff. It's included in the terms of reference for a strategic review of general practice to be completed this year. The review aims to identify challenges facing the sector, such as GP shortages, and highlight where improvements should be made. Reforms to out-of-hours GP services will also be considered in the review to improve accessibility across the country. A search has resumed in County Monaghan this morning for the remains of a County Tyrone teenager believed to have been murdered by the IRA in 1975. The Independent Commission for the Location of Victims' Remains is focusing its search for the body of Columba McVeigh at Bragganbog in Emmyville. McVeigh was just 19 years old when he was allegedly abducted and killed by the IRA. The search for the teenager from Tyrone was halted 5 months ago due to dangerous ground conditions. A man in his 30s has died following a crash in County Tyrone yesterday afternoon. The single vehicle collision involving a Vauxhall Vivaro van occurred at around 3:10 on the Garvala Road in Fintona. The man died at the scene. Police are appealing to anyone with information to come forward. They're particularly keen to speak with the driver of a dark-coloured Toyota Hilux, which was seen in the area yesterday afternoon and who police believe can help them with their inquiries. Donegal ETB is to benefit from €2.6 million in funding announced today for the further education and training sector. The money's been allocated to ETBs in Cavan, Monaghan, Kilkenny and Carlow, Laois and Offaly, Longford and Westmeath and Tipperary, as well as Donegal. The capital funding will go towards small-scale works, including necessary infrastructure and improvement works, and for the purchase of equipment. The Cathaoirleach of the Lifford-Stranorlar Municipal District says Donegal County Council must broaden its response to flash flooding at Drumfergus, Killygordon on Friday evening. Up to 100 metres of roadway was washed away and a number of homes and gardens were damaged by floodwater and debris. Councillor Patrick McGowan says there's been flooding in that area on a regular basis in recent years. He believes the council is focusing its attention on the area around the first house to be flooded, but he told Greg on today's 9 till noon show that they must look at an area further up the road and work with local landowners to improve drainage.
And the council has been doing small remedial works, which has obviously not... It's actually got worse. Truth be told, when you look at what happened, that's the worst yet. The council knows now what to do. I would say they've very little design work. I think they could do it straight away, but they're going to have to use the authority, part of the local authority, to go on and do it. And it's no good here. They can't wait any longer. And if they're going to spend money now, which they will have to open that road again, they have to start with the drainage and then do the road.
There are further calls, meanwhile, for the report into flooding at Letterkenny University Hospital to be published. The chair of the Regional Health Forum says it's shocking that 11 years since the hospital was devastated by flooding, reports have not yet been made public. The CEO of the CELT, the University Healthcare Group, Tony Canavan, says on the back of legal advice, they are not in a position to publish the report at this time. Well, Councillor Jerry McMonigal, who chairs the forum, says while works have been carried out at the hospital, the cause of the flooding needs to be established.
Millions have been spent in remedial works to ensure that the flooding doesn't reoccur again, and it seems to be working. But that's not the point. The point that we need to get to the bottom of is why did it happen? How did it happen? And was the proper planning procedures that were in place followed at that time? And I think it's also imperative that the public are made aware of the investigation into it and the report, and I would hope that that report would be published sooner rather than later.
Weather forecast, it'll be mostly dry today with a mix of cloud and hazy sunny spells, some spots of light rain and drizzle with top temperatures of 12 or 13 degrees Celsius. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
The obituary notices for this Monday morning, April the 3rd. The death has occurred of Joe McLean, 63, Amelia Court, Derry. Remains are reposing at Terry Rowan, Moville, County Donegal. Funeral from there this afternoon at 1:25 for 2 o'clock Requiem Mass at St Columbus Church, Balnacray, Moville. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Bridget O'Donnell, née Walsh, Crowson Downs, Sligo and formerly of Dunloe, Donegal. Reposing at Sean Feely's Funeral Home, Sligo this afternoon from 4:30 with removal at 6:30 to St Anne's Church, Sligo, arriving at 7 o'clock. Mass of the Resurrection will be celebrated tomorrow at 12 noon and will be live streamed via mcnmedia.tv. Burial follows in Sligo Cemetery. Family flowers only, please, by request. Family home private. And the death has taken place of Con Meehan, Cornwall Avenue, Wood Green, London and formerly Killybegs, Donegal. Funeral arriving to St Patrick's Church, Monaseed today for funeral mass at 12 noon, followed by burial in the adjoining cemetery. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Choose technology. Choose versatility. Choose experience. Karcher pressure washers. Now available at your local hardware and electrical retailer. Choose Karcher.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's great to have you on board for this Monday. It's the 3rd of April. Good morning if you're just joining us as well. Where have you been? Don't forget, if you want to catch up on the show, it's podcast on our website, highlandradio.com, from 1 o'clock every single day, broken up into 3 hours, so it's easier for you to navigate. You can also go on to Facebook or YouTube and watch back the show there if you want to. And it's played overnight as well, from times which I don't know because I'm normally asleep or trying to sleep. 1 o'clock and then 2 o'clock on a Friday, I think. By the way, are you like me, where bar the wee trip to Brussels last week for a show, you haven't really been away for a holiday. Do you know where you can relax? You don't set an alarm, unless you want to get up and go walking around the place. You don't necessarily have to be cooking and shopping and all that kind of stuff. Well, we have an opportunity for you to avail of plenty of breaks, because our big competition running at the moment is your opportunity to win a holiday of a lifetime with Highland Radio, or you might choose to do what I would. I would go on maybe 4 or 5 or 6, depending on how luxuriously I wanted to travel, because you could do so with the €10,000 travel voucher. It's yours if you win, and it sits there, and you could have a number of breaks or one big one. It's completely up to you, however you wish to holiday. It's in association with Atlantic Travel. It's not just the voucher either, by the way, because there's €5,000 in cash. We've already given away a €2,000 prize last week, so we're looking forward to giving away this €15,000 prize in value. €10,000 travel voucher with €5,000 spending money. Now, you can imagine you might want to do the Northern Lights trip. I don't know. You might want to go on a cruise. You might want to go to Lapland, or just maybe hop back and forwards from Lanzarote a number of times. You can do all of that with your €10,000 voucher, your €5,000 spending money. Now, you can win all of that for a tenner. That's the most you'll pay for a ticket. You can go onto our website, highlandradio.com. The competition is coming to an end this week. Wow, okay, right. So it's this. You've only got a couple of days to enter. I can't believe it's nearly April the 6th already. So if you want to have your name in the Trambola, go onto our website, highlandradio.com, click on Win a Holiday. There's a simple question for you to answer. It's a mechanism we must employ. And you can buy one ticket for €10. Now, if you want to increase the value that you will receive and buy them for other people, or group in with other people, maybe there's 6 of you in a family and you can get your tickets cheaper. You get one ticket for €10, you get 6 for €50, so that's an extra ticket for €50, or you get an extra 2 tickets for €80. So you get 10 for 80, 6 for 50, 1 for 10. Now, you have to have your tickets purchased by 11 a.m. on Thursday, the 6th of April, this coming Thursday, because the draw will be made live on this show, and the winner will be announced. They'll get €10,000 holiday voucher, €5,000 in spending money. The winner will be announced on this Thursday coming. So if you're going to enter, I suggest you get in quick. Now, the website, fully secure, very, very simple. But if you don't shop online, maybe you prefer to give us a call, 07491 25000. We have the team here to take your calls and give you your ticket number. All the ticket numbers go into the Trambola, which is here in studio with me, and then we'll rotate that and pull out the ticket on Thursday. So we're getting close to the final reminder time. If you want a chance to win that €10,000 travel voucher, €5,000 spending money, it's a €15,000 prize total, then get your ticket for a tenner at highlandradio.com. As I say, if you want to buy multiples, depending on how much money you have, of course, or group in with others, which is probably what I do because I'm tight, 6 for 50 or 10 for 80. So good luck if you're entering. I note when we were away last week that the gentleman who won the it was effectively €2,000 prizes, was up collecting his cheque, and we look forward to next week, or even, well, it would be next week, wouldn't it? Another one of you out there across the Northwest up here collecting your prize, €5,000 cash, €10,000 holiday voucher, in association with Atlantic Travel. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApps and text number, by the way, if you want to comment on the show. Great news about the new service for older people. Yeah, I think hopefully, I mean, obviously we have to wait and see how it plays out, but I think it's a really good option for, it's not just for older people, by the way. We did sort of pick out that cohort because that was my line of questioning, because I know it can often be most distressful for people in that age groups, but it's not specifically necessarily. Hi, Greg. Very best wishes to John Joe with the new service. Great to hear him on, indeed. And the last time John Joe was in studio with us, it was after that awful tragedy in Creasla. Re-flooding. The council needs to enforce some sort of law to enter land if the owners of these lands don't cooperate. There is no point resurfacing the same road and fixing the same piping if the root of the issue is not dealt with. Proper action has to be taken this time. I think we're all agreeing on that, aren't we? Donegal County Council is putting in earth to water systems in houses they own, but it's a very expensive system to operate. Many of the people I've spoken to say doors and windows have not been replaced. The system can only work properly if your house is airtight. What is the point of doing a half a job. Plus, there's no underfloor heating. Again, it can only work right if this is in place. Now, I don't know if that's... I know that's what the listener thinks. I'm not sure how that system works. The Guibara Conservation Group is holding an information session on Saturday next, the 8th of April, between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. in St. Bridget's Hall, Lettermack Ward. It's to help people with letters of objection to a wind farm planning application on the Guibara River, which is currently before An Bord Pleanála. People can drop in any time between those hours. So that's between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. in St. Bridget's Hall, Lettermack Ward. And it's if you are opposed to that planning application on the Guibara River. Another caller says, so we as taxpayers pay for the inquiry into the hospital flooding, yet our lords and masters decide they will not release the findings we paid for. Why is this? What are our betters hiding from us? I don't know. Next thing you know, they'll be doing extensive inquiries into planning and spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on that and not publishing that. What is it with reports and Donegal that we don't get to see? We don't get to see them. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know the answer to that. We'll try and get to the bottom of it. Of course, that's what we try and do for you here. Right, some comments. Actually, I'll just read this one about the A&E because it's a positive one. I was in the ED on Thursday night with my baby, and I have to say the staff were all fantastic. They never stopped all night. I was there until 5 a.m. until I got a cot for my baby in the peds. And even though they were run off their feet, they still had time to keep coming back and checking in on us. They are all heroes. I hope your baby is okay. I'm sure they are, if he or she is, if you're messaging us now. It's this awful, I'm not sure if it's an awful bug, I don't know, but there's a dose going around that's really a clingy one. It doesn't clear up as quick as others do. Our Hudson's had it for a few days, and it's so bloody stressful. And I'm sure many of you out there with young ones in the house can relate to what I'm talking about. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's something we have a GP on later on. Maybe we might run past some do's and don'ts in relation to that, because GPs do their best, I'm sure, of course, but you know yourself, you go to the GP and it could be viral and they send you home and keep an eye on him for 3 or 4 days, and if anything changes, come back, and the temperature's up and down and it's really, really tough, isn't it? 086 60 25,000 if you or anyone in your house has been affected by that, and how you're coping with it and what have you. Just share your views and your experiences. A caller says, I like the idea of pathway in avoiding hospital delays. We need development of such pathways, though. More community nurse specialists and community hubs similar to the rapid response model in Northern Ireland. It needs extending to children too, as they are another cohort that often need care closer to home. Community children's nurses, etc. would be a great development. Excellent to see this going live, and other similar initiatives. Yes, indeed. Okay. We'll be back with more in the 9 till noon show after we take a break for the bingo numbers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday, April 3rd. You're playing on a green coloured sheet. The reference number is S6. It's game number 14. The numbers are the number 4, 27, 90, 44, 50, 60, 89, 71, 17 and 69. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors, serving Letterkenny and the surrounding areas for over 100 years. Charlie McClafferty Funeral Directors. Let our family take care of your family and guide you through a difficult time.
It's back. McGinty Tractors Open Day, Thursday, 6th of April from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the Clara Road, Donegal Town. Don't miss out on the largest selection of tractors and farm machinery on show, exclusively at McGinty Tractors Open Day on Thursday, 6th of April from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. Visit McGintyTractors.com.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
The time is just turned 19 minutes past 10. Now, you're very welcome back to the programme. We welcome onto the show now Dr. Denis McCauley, who is chair of the GP subcommittee of the Irish Medical Organisation and also a coroner. Thank you for joining us, Dr. McCauley. It's great to have you back on the programme.
Thank you, Greg.
Right. Now, we're talking in the context of you and your colleagues calling for a prescription drug licensed here, classified as a controlled drug after toxicology reports indicated an increase in poisoning deaths linked to its toxicity. So can you talk to us about the drug and why people might have it in their systems ordinarily?
I think it's a drug called pregabalin, and quite a number of your listeners will probably be on this drug. It's primarily used as when somebody has nerve pain, whether it's sciatica or from their neck, that it's actually used. So it's a very effective drug, and if somebody's on it, they're not to worry about it. But it is also a drug that, particularly if you have a tendency to abuse medicines and drugs, it does give a certain euphoria that is appealing to people who would abuse drugs such as benzodiazepines and so forth. So what we find in quite a lot of drug deaths that we have taken to inquest, pregabalin is generally at very high levels. It is, so therefore we feel that we should draw attention to it by asking it to be a Class C drug, which means that a GP then can only give a month at a time. There is concerns that people are getting it for bona fide reasons, and other people are getting it and actually selling it. So it just means that it puts a slight barrier to the GP to remind him that this is an important drug, and therefore it's just drawing attention to doctors that we should be careful of this drug because it is a drug of abuse and it is causing deaths as well.
Can we determine, even anecdotally, Denis, are the people who are found with high levels of it, would it be the person that it's prescribed for, or would it be someone who's taking it for recreational purposes, if that's the right way to describe it, I wonder?
I think it sort of breaks down into both, really, Greg. Okay. I think there are people who would be there'd be people who would be taking it for chronic pain, and maybe the issue of the pain is getting on top of them, and unfortunately they may take their own lives. But quite a lot of the time this is a drug that is sold on the street for, I think it is a couple of pounds, a couple of euros, a tablet. So most of the time, and answer your question, sometimes they are prescribed, but most of the times they're not prescribed.
And as well as that too, you want to ensure that the person who this is prescribed to, particularly if they're vulnerable, it's they that's taking it, and there's not somebody in the house that's saying, taking their pain relief medicine, and they could then find themselves afraid to raise issues with the authorities. You know what I mean? If people are allowed to have it in large numbers in the homes, you can see how it can create an awful lot of problems.
I think so, and that's why this is the big. I think GPs will still be, as it were, they will still use it, but when there's that slight barrier, it makes them think, which is important, and I think that's really why there's the other drugs that there's certain sleeping tablets and more sort of codeine or morphine-based painkillers that we have to prescribe in a similar way. We have to handwrite the prescription, and it has to be. We can only give a month's prescription. So it can't be a 3 months. So the worry would be that there would be a lot of these medicines, if he was in a repeat prescription and they weren't taking them all the time, that they would gather up in the house, and A, there would be a greater chance of them taking an overdose, or B, people could then just be gathering them to actually sell them. All right. So
Lyrica, it's also marketed here. Is that correct?
Yes, Lyrica. It's known as Lyrica. Lyrica is what the name of it that originally came out, but it has now gone off patent, so it's known as pregabalin. And as I say, I just want to re-emphasize there are a lot of your listeners who are on it now. They're not to worry about it.
It's not taking it. We're talking about people that have taken too much of it, which applies presumably to many drugs that you take as prescribed. And you're okay.
I think it is that they're abusing it. It has a euphoric answer. Like for instance, paracetamol is used as when somebody takes an overdose, but they're doing it because they want to to end their lives. There's no benefit from a pharmacology benefit in taking paracetamol, but Lyrica, pregabalin, when there is, people like to take it, that gives them a euphoric effect, and then when that's mixed with alcohol and mixed with other drugs, there can be unintentional deaths from that. And unfortunately, when people are actually try and end their lives, Lyrica is quite commonly there. And to be honest, have I seen a purely pregabalin death? No, but it's generally a cocktail. Generally, when somebody dies, it's because their brain just goes to sleep and just stops working, and then their heart and their lungs stop. And that's because of the actual cerebral depression. So Lyrica adds to the alcohol, which adds to the codeine, which adds to the sleeping tablet, and that does it. So I think that there'll be no material change. If this decision is made, we're one of the outliers in Europe in that we don't classify this as a Class C Schedule 3 drug. So therefore, when it happens, the only effect is somebody who's actually getting it, routinely for chronic pain. They'll probably have to go and get it monthly from their.
And might I ask, Dr. McCauley? Obviously, this is through medical professionals. Like, why would this have to be mandated? Could a directive or a letter or advice not be forwarded to those that prescribe it, asking them to do so only once a month, or does the change of classification give them a little bit of a bit of a buffer to tell their patient, I can only give you a month? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it is behavioural therapy in a way. We are, if we're told something, that's one thing. But if we're told that it's something, but say that you can now do it on a monthly basis, it does affect your prescribing of that drug. We know that when it goes to a schedule, when you can only do it on a monthly basis, GPs will look for an alternative, rather, so that they can give the patient a 3 or 6 months prescription for that. And I think it's just one of these things that as you say, in a perfect world, you should ring me up and say, Dennis, don't be prescribing that. You have to do it carefully now, and I will then react. But when you do it as a schedule, it actually puts barriers in front of you to prescribe it, which is exactly what we want them to do.
Okay, and I mean, it's a strong voice, the Coroners Society of Ireland. I mean, will there be resistance to this, can you imagine? Would people lobby against this? I don't know. Or do you imagine whomever within the health department is in charge of this go, right, okay, we've had this warning from the CSI here, we better act upon it?
I don't anticipate there being any groups who will be against it. Perhaps a few drug dealers would be against it, but I don't.
We're not worried about them too much. Yeah.
I don't think they'll be listening to be actually listened to. So no, I think it is just, it's once again, there's going to be a review of this. We are encouraging it to do it. I would expect it to happen. And as I say, I really think that everybody's just saying, well, most other European countries are doing it, we should do it also.
Just whilst I have you, lots of people I'm bumping into, it was affected, it was in our house as well. Viral condition going around seemingly amongst young people. I don't know. Is there something in particular that's spreading at the moment, or is this just seasonal stuff and it just happens to be in the circle I'm in? Or
there still is influenza B floating around. Then there's just seasonal stuff also. I think COVID is there as well. So I think it's, unfortunately, last September we had viruses jockeying on top of viruses, and we had strep A, and it was a very difficult time because there were so many viruses at high levels. I think it's a similar picture in relation to the viruses, but there's not as many people getting sick, thankfully, because of the weather. I think I hear through the grapevine that there will unfortunately be, well, I say unfortunately, people are sort of vaccinated out at the present moment, but I think the at-risk people will be encouraged soon to come back for their further booster. I can't actually recall which booster it is. Is it 3? It's 4? It depends if you're over 70 or if you have an actual chronic disease. So there will probably be, the people who are vulnerable will be encouraged to come in once again soon for their spring COVID vaccine. And I must admit that I think everybody is fatigued out, but I do think for this at-risk group that there still is relevance to get the vaccine. So when it is announced, I expect it to be announced quite soon. I would encourage everybody everybody is sort of viewing COVID as not a dangerous condition now, even people who are vulnerable. But unfortunately, I can assure them that if you are vulnerable, it still is a very serious condition.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I know people might be taking their phones out, you're speaking specifically about vulnerable groups, that this might lead to a passing blow rather than the full-on hit, because obviously we've got the Irish government's approach to testing and what have you, and also the WHO's intervention more recently as well. But you're speaking specifically, aren't you, in this case, in relation to... And just one other thing while I have you. Last time we spoke to you in January, I believe, we were talking about a project to record suicide numbers. How is that progressing at the moment, Dr. McCauley?
Well, I think it is. I think it's a very sensible audit. As I say, the county-wide figures are not available yet, but as soon as they are, naturally we will be able to have a chat about that in a sensible way. And
okay, well, we'll leave it till then. So rather than we'll leave it till then, so it's all in context, and we I appreciate your guidance in that regard. Dr. McCauley, thanks for your time this morning. I greatly appreciate it. Take care. That is Dr. Denis McCauley, Chair of the GP Subcommittee of the Irish Medical Organisation. They are calling for that prescription drug, pregabalin. It's also marketed as Lyrica, sorry, I beg your pardon. I said it correct the first time. As you heard from the doctor there, often prescribed for the likes of nerve pain, epilepsy, general anxiety disorders as well. But it is being spotted in toxicology reports, a number of poison deaths, an increase in poison deaths links to its toxicity. And effectively what it would do, it change the class of the drug and means that it could only be prescribed 1 month at a time. If that's something you've got an insight or an opinion on, 086 60 25,000, your WhatsApps and text to that number, 086 60 25,000, or again, give us a call on 074 91 25,000.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Visit the Inishowen Co-op Home Build event at the Inishowen Gateway Hotel Buncrana on Saturday, April 15th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Meet the suppliers for expert advice on all your home build needs. Mica support available on the day. See Facebook for more details.
The Screwfix Easter deals are now on. Save €40 on the DeWalt 18-volt twin pack, now only $188.95. Get the Titan hose reel for just $38.95, saving 25%. And buy any Ronseal product and get one half price. Screwfix Easter deals. Shop online or in store. Deals end 10th of April. Delivery charges apply. Paint collection only. Ronseal, cheapest item, half price.
There's bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,200 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Just got through the post here, a bit of a blurb from On Post. Were you watching the Late Late Show on Friday? You would see that, I didn't see it myself, saw bits and bobs of it. Then I saw some criticism of it, which I don't understand. You know, it's one show the year that's given over to country music, and then you've got people going, oh, this is the death knell of the Late Late Show, good luck to it and all that kind of stuff. And I don't see the point. If a particular programme of a series is not your thing, just watch something else. I don't watch the Late Late Show much at all. But I do understand that people are going to love the country show because country music's huge here. But fair play to Daniel O'Donnell, Philomena Begley, Big Tom, Cleona Hagen, and Nathan Carter as well. They're all going to have stamps, which is good because I don't think that's going to be a big deal in the future, stamps, because people aren't posting letters as much as they did. So I'd say they're getting in there just at the end. All right, 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number. 086 60. We might try and get Daniel on the programme a little later on, perhaps maybe just to talk about that show. 086 60 25,000, as I say, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000, and emails to comments at highlandradio.com. And just don't forget, you can watch the show by logging onto our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland, or on Facebook. Just search Highland Radio, you'll see us there. Right, we're joined on the programme now, I hope, by Jennifer Carroll, who is the author of Jen's Journey, with the subtitle, How I Changed My Life, Meal by Meal, and You Can Too. Hiya, Jennifer. Good morning to you.
Hi, morning. How are you?
It's great to have you on the show. Right, okay, so talk to us a little bit about your, I suppose, relationship with food. Is that an okay way to phrase it, I suppose, through your life?
That's, I suppose, what the book is about, my relationship with food from a very young age. So I kind of go back from the beginning and I go all the way through until the last couple of years where I've managed to lose a bit of weight. I started when I think I was a child. It all started through emotional eating. At the time, I wouldn't have understood that's what I was doing. And I think my relationship with food from a very young age was quite a negative relationship, but I just didn't understand that at the time. And that kind of slowly developed into secret eating as I got a little bit older, a bit more self-conscious, and then it eventually became binge eating. And it wasn't until like my mid-late 20s when I was really more aware of that and the bad relationship I developed. And then it was my late 20s when I decided to kind of embark on this journey and try and transform the whole relationship I had with food and my lifestyle.
Yeah, and was it a case that you were conscious of your weight? That did you go through a cycle of, yo-yoing, I suppose people do call it, where you lost some weight, gained some weight, or were you content in your weight until the time that you realised that you wanted something to change?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely yo-yoed. I mean, I didn't yo-yo in an extreme way. I was definitely always in a bigger body. And I think from a young age, I have a 7-year-old son now, and I think I was as young as 8 or 9 when a friend of mine and myself were trying, cabbage soup diets and Atkins diets. And I think it's only now I realize how unhealthy and how dangerous that was having a child that age. But from a young age, I think maybe 6 or 7 was when I started to become a little bit more self-conscious, going to swimming with class and in school. And I definitely noticed that I was a little bit bigger and maybe a couple of comments here and there from people. So I was aware that I was in a bigger body. And that gradually just kind of continued. I got bigger and bigger. And I always tried, but I think the mistake I was making was I put too much pressure on myself. I was trying to go from 0 to 100 and expected massive results, I suppose at minimum effort.
And was that lonely? Was that a lonely time, Jennifer? Were people around you, even at that young age, aware that this was something you were bothered about? I think, a lot of times when we are really young children and through our teen years, there are things that bother us, but we don't want to necessarily draw attention to them or bother other people around us. And, you spend many long nights sort of on your own thinking about these things. It can be tough. Was that what it was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I talk a little bit about that in the book, looking back now, how much of my life and time that I wasted worrying about it. I don't think there was a night from the age of maybe 10 until my 20s that I didn't think about my size. Every night, like you said, I was very lonely. I didn't have any other friends or people around me that were in the same position as me, I suppose. So I didn't really talk about it. And then when if my parents tried to talk about it with me, I was always on the defense and I would just shut it down quickly because I was embarrassed about it. But it was definitely something that consumed my thoughts on a daily basis. And it's sad now when I think of how much time I spent worrying and thinking about it, but it definitely did. It took over my whole, that was all I thought about myself was my size. And I thought other people just saw my size over anything else.
Did you feel you had to sort of try and compensate from that? So if you were insecure about your size, that you felt that in other areas of your life or your personality that you had to almost overcompensate sort of to try and level things out in your own mind?
Absolutely. I mean, I did. I trained in theatre and I was always kind of, the cliche, the fat funny friend. I was definitely always the loud one. I was a pleaser because I just wanted people to like me and to see kind of, oh, she's funny or she's nice, not to just see my size. So I kind of don't go beyond to please other people or to make people laugh. And as much as I hated people noticing me, I always wanted the attention on me as the funny one, the clown or the joker. So I definitely think I overcompensate in that way.
Yeah, and how pivotal then into your decision-making progress was becoming a mum?
Yeah, definitely. So my little boy Carter, we were living in the UK at the time and he'd turned 1 and I kind of realized, okay, it's not just going to affect me anymore. I always held myself back. I didn't go traveling with friends. I didn't go on holidays. I wouldn't go to the beach. I didn't really do a lot of things because I was self-conscious. And then having a 1-year-old unknown, in the next couple of years with swimming lessons, going out and playing, doing sports activities, I wasn't able to do any of that. And I didn't want my lifestyle and size to kind of hold him back and to, stop him and miss out on things.
And what about then, so your own mortality though, and being around for him? Because I think you mentioned at one point you were 25 stone 8 pounds. Now, I mean, I would imagine that comes with, real potential health risks as well. Did it cross your mind that, will I be here when he's doing his leaving or
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. I mean, as well, I'd just become a single parent, so I had that pressure as well if it's just me and him. And then right before I'd moved home to Ireland and England, I had a bit of a health scare with pancreatitis, and I had to go into hospital for a couple of nights. And I had a friend, luckily, that was able to watch him. But I think that was a real eye opener for me, as in my weight is kind of starting to affect my health. I'd always been relatively healthy. I never had any issues, so I think that never impacted me. But when I had that kind of scare, I was like, I'm really kind of putting myself into an early grave, eating myself into an early grave was how I felt I was.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk about the astonishing weight loss, but you come across to me in your story, Jennifer, and I hope this isn't patronising, and I don't mean it in any way bad, but an incredibly strong and resilient person. And you directed that, I think, up until such time as you decided to do weight loss, in coping, in being strong for yourself, for your family, dealing with that loneliness that we talked of and putting that brave face out there. Yeah. And it feels a wee bit like to me that you've challenged that amazing inner strength and determination that you had, rather than sort of creating a shield around you, into achieving what you want to achieve in terms of your weight loss.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really nice way of looking at it. I think when I was bigger, and even when I was going through the weight loss, I never ever would have looked at myself or considered myself as a strong person or resilient. If anything, I kind of felt a little bit weak and like a victim, and I was always, this happens to me and boo-hoo me kind of mentality. But I do think, having gone through what I went through, it did make me realize that I am capable, of more. And as cliche as it sounds, I think when you've been through a hard life and, not a hard life, couple of years, it kind of made me realize, if I can take that on, if I can go through that and I'm still here and I still have opportunities, I can do this for myself. And it really helped me change my mindset and focus. Like you said, I became a lot more resilient, and I just believed in myself a lot more, I think when you're want to embark on a weight loss journey, a really, really big weight loss journey, like we said earlier, it's a very lonely place, and it can be incredibly overwhelming when you think of the amount of weight you have to lose. And
well, that's what I want to... Sorry, I beg your pardon. So I thought you were finished, Jennifer. The line is not perfect, so hopefully listeners are getting 99% of what we're saying. It's just a slight crackle, but it's fine. We'll stick with it. Now, very rarely I've spoken to someone who is, I think once before, that has lost an extraordinary amount of weight, which I believe it is. You've halved your body size. And in the past, it's only, I think, 1 or 2 people I've spoken to that have done it through exercise and diet. And obviously, it's not going to be for everyone. Yeah. And this is we're not making any judgment call on anyone that goes through the surgery route. There's been fantastic outlets for that. But it's remarkable. You've lost 12 stone through diet and exercise through a short period of time. But before we talk to the how, there's a first step. There's a first step, right, to every process. Can you pinpoint when you took the first step, and also how many times you considered it but didn't take that first step, or is it grey? But can you pinpoint in your mind the day it changed?
Yeah, I think this time it was different because, like I said, I was living in the UK, and myself and my son were about to move home to Ireland permanently. And I'd been in the UK for 9 years. So for a long time, it was very easy for me to kind of hide my lifestyle and my size. And in the past, I think what I would do is I'd almost set myself up for failure. So I would tell everyone around me, I'm starting a new diet and I'm going to lose 10 stone this year. And then when I'd start maybe hitting a wall or it wasn't going great, I'd give up completely and I'd feel like a failure. And that would kind of lead to that vicious cycle of binge and all that kind of stuff. Whereas this time, I think it was kind of, I was at my lowest point. I was about to move home. I was, 26 stone, unemployed, single mom, coming back to Ireland to live with my parents. And I really felt like an absolute failure. I was really low on myself. I had no self-esteem. And I think it was just I wish I could say I decided to do it for myself, but it was definitely for my son. I think it was that moment where I was just like, like it's now or never. You know, every year I'm getting bigger. I just have to do it now. And I definitely think he was the driving force that kind of like my wake up call and my reason, and having him as my reason. I don't think I ever loved myself enough to be my own reason or to do it for myself. But I think having him was definitely my wake-up call or my aha moment.
Right, so what is the process then? Because this is obviously in the context of a book called Jen's Journey. And to lose such amount of weight in such an amount of time, did it require massive change? So can you talk to us, and people can get the book and go through with you, because there's recipes in there, and there's also, I think, a bit of support with why people might eat as well. You know, what is the trigger for you to eat? You talk a bit about that too, and other things that help to change, that help you in your process. So how drastically did your diet change?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't massive. It was the things I suppose you hear people say all the time. I really started to try and introduce 3 meals a day. So I definitely would have been someone, you know, that would skip maybe breakfast and lunch and then binge in the evening. I didn't want to join a gym or do any kind of exercise because I didn't want to put pressure on myself. So I literally just started doing things like cooking my meals. My dinners were all home cooked. Once a week, I would introduce a recipe that I've never tried before, just to kind of keep it exciting. And then I think keeping a food journal was something that really worked for me. Every Sunday, I'd kind of set aside 30 minutes in the evening and I would write down my list of meals that I was going to do for myself and plan. I had a 1-year-old, so I was at home with him, so I was able. I had the time.
What a time to choose! What a time to choose this.
So I had like all the time in the world to be cooking and prepping at home, which obviously definitely benefited me.
Yeah.
But I think starting simple, I still was eating like large amounts of food. I wasn't, you know, I didn't cut anything out. That's one thing I did as well. I never said to myself, I'm going to deny myself any food. So I would always have, you know, my chocolate bar in the evening, but instead of having maybe a family-sized chocolate bar, I was just having a Curly Wurly or, you know, a Freddo or just something simple with my cup of tea. And I would never say no. If I felt like burgers and chips for dinner, I'd make burgers and chips, but I would just kind of educate myself on maybe how to cook them a little bit healthier and start from scratch. And like really and truly within the year, the 10 stone came off. I always, like, of the whole journey, that was the easiest part. Like changing my mindset and all of that and how I talk to myself, that was harder. But I think people think you have to make massive, massive changes. But just simple things like planning, like organizing a little bit more, maybe writing a shopping list for yourself and cooking with the family. That is something I think was a big deal for me as well, like introducing character into cooking and making it a fun thing, sitting down as a family, eating the meals. And then it wasn't until I was maybe 4 stone down that I decided I wanted to kind of go to the gym. But the gym wasn't for weight loss. The gym was to go for like my headspace. And, you know, I wanted to train a little bit and have an hour a day that I could just escape reality, I suppose. And once I started the gym and started getting a little bit more active, things like my steps, you know, and I didn't start with 10,000 a day or 15,000 a day. I started like going for a 10-minute walk a day, like doing 1 lap of the estate every evening. And eventually these habits become, you know, easier and part of your routine. And gradually, before you know it, like you're able to do more. And I started to really enjoy all that stuff as well.
And do you believe that this is replicable across the board? You know, is there a particular quirk to Jennifer Carroll, like your metabolism or something, whereby, you know, eating the same foods but just smaller portions had a particular impact for you? Has it been shown, or have you had feedback from people that it works for them as well? Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, I started the Instagram page 5 years ago, and the Instagram page has essentially just been me sharing the recipes. And obviously throughout the years, speaking to people online and stuff, I've always had really lovely positive messages from people saying, you know, I've started cooking these recipes for the family and like I've seen massive changes and they enjoy the food. That's why it was important for me to keep it simple. But as well, like obviously it's important to say I also have an underactive thyroid, so I'm on medication for that. My metabolism is completely different to other people's, but I think everybody is different and different things work for different people. I mean, some people could do, you know, intermittent fasting. I could never do that. Some people, the weight loss surgery, that was definitely an option. I, you know, went look into that when I was in the UK, but it wasn't for me because it was my mindset I needed to change. But I know people that have had it and have had great results. So I do think everyone is different, but I think the whole thing, what my book, the recipes, my book that's important, is they're just simple recipes to cook. I obviously track my calories and protein, so I include that, but they're just kind of recipes that I wanted people to open a cookbook and be like, oh, I have all of that in the house. I don't need to pop to the shops and get this spice or this herb, or I don't have any of that. They're just really simple recipes that I think are delicious. And I've heard people say that they are nice, but I've definitely had feedback over the years from people.
Well, with a really active Instagram,
good results.
Yeah, and with the Instagram page too, you're getting constant live feedback. It's a constant assessment of what's people are trying and all that works. So it's tried and tested already. So when you lose that amount of weight over a year, does a lot come off quickly? And then it sort of plateaus, and then you have to adjust your mind so as you don't lose heart and you keep going, or because there's bound to be a couple of stone there that may not even be body fat that can be rid of quite quickly. So there's a bit of, you have to control you know how you're thinking about it and expectations and all that type of stuff, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jennifer.
So I lost weight over 2 years. The first year I lost 10 stone, and the second year I lost 2 stone. And the second year I was just focusing a little bit more on like training, and that was when I started tracking protein and calories. So in the second year I only lost 2 stone, but my shape was really starting to change, and I could see that a lot more. I think the first year when I lost the 10 stone, that was quite a dramatic weight loss. But obviously I was left with quite a lot of excess skin as well. So that was something where I'd always say to my trainer, like, oh, in the last 3 years, I've been working on like maintaining my weight. And every now and then I might be like, oh, I'd like to lose a couple of kilos here and there, or say over like a Christmas period, if I gain some weight, I'll be focusing on losing. But like you said, it is important. Like everyone is different. I would have quite a lot of muscle now. I'm always going to have, excess skin in different parts of my body. So I definitely would weigh more. And I think it's important as well for people not to focus on a number. I think especially women, like you compare, and like even my friends, we'd always we don't anymore, but we used to always throw around like, oh, I weigh X amount, I weigh X amount. And then you kind of think, oh, I need to weigh that. Whereas be like, oh, I'm like quite fit, I'm healthy. I feel good, but I'm like 4 stone heavier than my friend, and I don't think we look that different. So I definitely think it's important not to focus on the numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And I really am uncomfortable with that whole process on some TV shows of getting people to stand up on scales. And it's horrendous.
I don't agree with any of that,
Right, okay. Listen, it's a remarkable journey, but it's achievable. You're just like everyone else. There's people out there listening that can do what Jen did. If people want to get hold of your book, Jen's Journey, do you suggest they go to your Instagram at the first instance, or the bookstore? So tell in your own words, how people can get hold of the book and follow you.
So my Instagram is Jens_journey_IE, and I do have a link on my Instagram page to buy the book online, but it's also available in all bookstores. So any kind of good bookstore will have the book at the moment.
And presumably because of the way in which you've done this, it's sustainable, or more sustainable, in that really, you're eating a lot of the stuff that you enjoy, and that's the one slight issue I think that some people get a bit of a gunk with the operations, is that it can actually change your eating habits into the long term, and some people struggle with that, and that's fine. Right, okay. Listen, it's been lovely speaking to you. Best wishes to all the family, and congratulations on the book and everything else you've achieved. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye. Jennifer Carroll there, author of Jen's Journey, How I Changed My Life, Meal by Meal, and you can too. Apologies for the slight crackling on the line there. Hopefully, I'm sure most of you got the message there. Right, okay, let's get to some comments here. Good morning, Greg. Would you please wish Noreen Gallagher in Downings a very happy 80th birthday today? This comes from all her friends in the Carragot Choir. We miss her and hope to have her back with us again in the choir very soon. Have a great day, Noreen. A very happy 80th birthday to you, Noreen. Your choir colleagues looking for your return ASAP as soon as you are able to. Have a happy birthday. And by the way, we're always open to wish people happy birthdays, anniversary, or whatever. By the way, more than happy to do so. Right, okay, let us take a break. We're going to be back with more in the 9 till noon show after these.
New trainers from your favourite brands at Brian McCormick Sports, Brooks, Asics, On Running and Hoka. New Hoka Clifton 9 has a wider toe box and it's softer, giving you that Hoka spongy feeling, making your run more responsive. Step into our safe size experience, have your feet measured and update your gait analysis. Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny. Look the part, play the part on bmcsports.ie.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
Ready for a change or upgrade? Think Seat. With our wide range of award-winning Seat SUV, including the bold crossover Arona, the family favourite Ateca, or the spacious 7-seater Tarraco. All vehicles come with great offers on finance and PCP options. Book a test drive today by calling DMG Motors on 074 97 21 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie. Choose your new 231 Seat with confidence with a visit to DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town.
Easter sale now on. Evolve Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park. We have the fit of suit you want. We have the size of suit you need. We have loads of suits to choose from. We are the Suit Bar. Easter sale now on. Open 7 days.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Majorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Well, a mostly dry day today with a mix of cloud and hazy sunny spells. Some spots of light rain and drizzle will occur. Highest temperatures of 12 or 13 degrees in moderate to fresh south to southeast winds easing by this evening. You are very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Some of your comments here. I've been on this drug for 7 years because of a waiting list for hip surgery. I've been reading about this for years and my consultant said there would be no problem with it. I'm prescribed 600 milligrams daily and it's now caused diverticulitis disease in me. This means my 50-year-old bowel is now an 80-year-old bowel. I can't wait until the day I can get off these drugs along with several others. You only get this medication in your monthly prescription. Yes, there's people who use this for recreational purposes, but this is such a dangerous drug, says that listener. Okay, listen, thank you so much for giving us that insight. Hi, Greg. I don't think it's very fair if the GEA start turning their clubs into asylum centres. What are our young boys and girls going to do then? They need the clubs for their own mental health, socially and fitness. Is that on the cards? That was flagged last year and the GEA said no, and I didn't realise the government had come back to them on that. I mean, whatever about disused areas or what have you, I mean, the GEA clubs are incredibly important and I'm sure that would be greatly resisted. Donegal County Council are filling the same potholes every second week in the same place and fillings get washed away once it rains. I wonder, is it dry weather filling they are using? I don't see that as much as I used to. I mean, there's a lot of areas on main roads that are riddled with potholes, but the repairs seem to be much better now than maybe they were in the past. I'm not quite sure. My mum was sent into the ED last week and sat for almost 24 hours only to be sent home as they had no beds. Was a line of elderly people sitting in chairs not getting seen. One lady, 90, was taken in by ambulance at 5 p.m. and no doctor had come to check on her at 2:30 a.m. I thought this was terribly sad to see our elderly people just ignored. Imagine working all your life to be left like that. Don't get me wrong, I know they are busy, but there doesn't seem to be a system in the ED department. Now, the one thing I will say about that is that, you know, there are going to be times that an elderly person, and I advocate an awful lot about older people on this programme, and I hope people recognise that, but they treat people in terms of the condition of the person. And even if a 90-year-old person is stable in the ED and you get other people with traumas and other emergencies, they probably will be put ahead of the older people, and that's why this pathway hopefully is a way to keeping people out of hospitals and out of those waiting lists. Nurses repeatedly called people that had already gone home, says a caller, but that's because people gave in, didn't they? didn't they? One lady waiting with a 3-year-old for an x-ray was there at 5 p.m. and still no x-ray when I was leaving at 3:30. I don't understand why you have to go to ED for an x-ray, and I really don't understand why you'd have to wait that long when the technicians are there already walking about. Surely that lady could have been with her little one and let go way sooner than that. There's no system in A&E, and the needs looked at as a matter of an urgency. But again, if that young person is bumped up, someone else is bumped back. That's just the way it is. Right, we'll be back with news shortly.
Only 3 days to go to our big holiday draw. Log on to highlandradio.com and enter our biggest holiday giveaway ever. It might be you who was picked out this Thursday on the 9 till noon show. One lucky winner will walk away with €10,000 to spend on a holiday of a lifetime with €5,000 spending money.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Super Value Fresh Irish Housekeeper's Cut, save 33%. Graham Norton Sauvignon Blanc, €10. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So, follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
I remember you. Hi, this is May McFatridge here. Come and see me in the delightful Olivia Nash and a happy medium at the Alley Theatre in Strabane on the 13th of April. Join me for a laugh as I enter the spirit world and reveal all. Tickets from the theatre box office or online.
Don't miss Jimmy Buckley at the Highlands Hotel Glenties on Good Friday, 7th of April. Doors open at 8 p.m. with early dancing to Conor O'Donnell. That's dancing to Jimmy Buckley at the Highlands Hotel Glenties on Good Friday, the 7th of April.
Hi folks, Paul McDevitt here, inviting you to join myself and Jimmy Stafford this Monday night for another edition of the Monday Night Sessions. On the show this week, we welcome a group that are taking the country by storm, the brilliant Donegal-based O'Nor. And if that's not enough, we welcome one of the country's finest ballad singers from Dublin, the one and only George Murphy. So, that's the Monday Night Sessions this Monday night between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. right here on Highland Radio.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, lots coming up in the last hour, so stay right where you are. To bring us a little bit closer, let's get a news update. And it's good morning now to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. 88 eviction notices were reinstated in Donegal following the lifting of the eviction ban over the weekend. It comes following an increase in the number of people presenting as homeless in the northwest. Latest figures published by the Department of Housing show that during 1 week in February, 146 people, including 30 children, accessed emergency accommodation in the region. HSE-employed GPs could become a possibility in areas where it's difficult to attract and retain staff. It's included in the terms of reference for a strategic review of general practice to be completed this year. The review aims to identify challenges facing the sector, such as GP shortages, and highlight where improvements should be made. Meanwhile, the National Ambulance Services Pathfinder initiative has been extended to Letterkenny, with the local team starting work today and the full rollout of the service set to be completed on Wednesday of next week. The initiative is designed to safely keep older people who phone the emergency service in their own home rather than taking them to the emergency department at Letterkenny University Hospital. The Cathaoirleach of the Lifford-Northern Municipal District says the council must broaden its response to flash flooding at Drumfergus, Killygordon on Friday evening. Up to 100 metres of roadway was washed away and a number of homes and gardens were damaged by floodwater and debris. The country's maritime defences are being questioned after Russian ships came within a few nautical miles off the Irish coast. The vessels, which had the capability to interfere with subsea cables, have now left Irish waters. They'd been monitored by the Air Corps, but there was no naval vessel available to keep watch. There's further calls for the report into flooding at Letterkenny University Hospital to be published. The chair of the Regional Health Forum says it's shocking that 11 years on since the hospital was devastated by the flooding, reports have still not been made public. And the Donegal County Coroner is calling for a drug used to treat epilepsy, nerve pain and anxiety to be reclassified. It's after an increase in evidence of pregabalin being present in drug-related deaths. The medicine is believed to pose a particular risk to users with current or past substance-related disorders. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update at 12 noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Michaela. And we're going to be digging a little deeper into that story of this unpublished report with Councillor Jay McMonagle after this quick break.
There's a grand stretch in the evening, Tom says to everyone he meets this time of year, including the fire service, who this evening responded to an electrical fire at Tom's house, caused by the charger he forgot to unplug after having a grand stretch in his online yoga class this afternoon. Not so grand. Thankfully, Tom has a phone watch alarm, which responds to break-ins and smoke in just 15 seconds for only €49. Life is unpredictable. Don't be alarmed, be phone watched. Offer ends March 19th. Visit phonewatch.ie. Monitoring fees apply.
Also coming up very shortly, Brendan Devaney will be joining us to reflect on the weekend's GEA action and to preview the DL debate, which is broadcast tonight. And if you want to get involved in that conversation, you know the text numbers now. 10 years after floods caused an estimated €25 million in damage at Letterkenny University Hospital, an official report into the incident has yet to be presented by Health Board officials. Councillor Jerry McMonagle is demanding that the reports into two separate instances of flooding at the hospital be made public. You'll remember the first flood at the hospital occurred in July 2013. A nearby drain burst its banks during heavy rain. And then just over a year later, August 2014, major damage was caused again when the new ED, brand new it was at that stage, was hit by heavy floods following torrential downpours. The chair of the Regional Health Forum West, Councillor Jerry McMonagle, joins us on the programme now, the man making these calls. Good morning, Jerry. Thanks for taking the time out today.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, I mean, I suppose we could say they've done an investigation. We haven't had any major flood incidents since. All's good in the hood. Why is it so important, do you think, though, that this report is published?
Well, it's like you said, Greg, it cost €25 million of damage, and that in itself would merit a report as to what happened. If we just go back, it was part of the new emergency department building. It had been built. There was concerns even when it was being built that it was prone to flooding. There had been already a few near misses to the old hospital. So one would like to think that when it was being built, that the proper conditions were applied, the proper works that would have been put in place to ensure that the flooding didn't occur. It wasn't that long opened. And then with the building there, it was built in a hole, and then it had corridors linking with the older hospital, and that acted as a conduit for the water. And then we had all the upheaval we had. We lost our emergency department, our radiology, X-ray department, the records were affected, and the daycare services. And this is for a major hospital in Donegal. So I think we're entitled to a report as to what happened, how did it happen. We know now how it happened, and we've seen since, and the remedial works that have taken place have worked quite well to date, and hopefully that'll continue. But I think we're due a report and an explanation as to why this happened.
No, not surprisingly, we're being told, as seems to be kind of a familiar story here, that it's complicated. There's legal issues that need to be looked at, different parties involved. But this is 11 years ago. Surely at this point, any hurdles that need to be overcome would have been overcome if there was any will to actually get this out into the public domain.
Well, within a year of the report being initiated, we were told that it would be quite quickly published, and ever since we've been asking periodically for updates, and they've been using the legal aspect that we're reviewing it to ensure there's no legal actions or every avenue is covered. But if there is to be legal proceedings, then surely 11 years on, we will have identified those legal proceedings or whatever other type of proceedings need to take place. And if there was shoddy workmanship, if planning wasn't adhered to, and we've heard all the rumours. Now, this investigation is supposed to have looked into all of that. And as you say, 11 years on, we surely should be in a position to publish the report and take whatever actions, legally or otherwise, might be necessary to recoup some of the 25 million that's been spent to date.
I mean, there are numerous reports that have been commissioned that are gathering dust. You know, there's a very important report, I think, in terms of planning that has been on the desk of many a housing minister still to be published. Now we have this that would give us some accountability, some answers, hopefully lessons to be learned from it. Who's to say, not just here, elsewhere. Is this a Donegal thing, Councillor, whereby we commission these reports into really quite critical matters and then we're stonewalled in terms of why they can't be published or not? Or does this happen elsewhere? Is it just a Donegal thing?
No, it's certainly not a Donegal thing. I think, and you named a couple of reports there, but I mean, there's many, many more. If there's an investigation, if there's a report, it has to come, first of all, to the government. They look at it, look at all the legalities of that. And then, as you say, it gets moved about from department to department. The planning review is one such instance of that. We had the mother and babies, we're having the defective concrete blocks and where all of that's going.
There's a report into institutional abuse in this county as well. Where's that?
It always be reviewed and then it be looked at and it gets moved about and legalities are brought into it, and that seems to then put it on the long.
But what doesn't make sense to me is that parties which could come out unfavourably from these reports have the power not to have them published. That's worrying.
Yeah, that is very worrying, and it has always been the case where we have asked regularly for the planning review report in Donegal to be published. It's sitting with the minister now for almost 10 years, something like this flood report, and no one is taking the initiative. Nobody's biting the bullet in this. Nobody's saying, right, let's put this report out there, warts and all, and let the people make up their own mind. And if there's repercussions or there's court cases out of it, so be it. But we need to ensure that these type of things don't happen again.
You were able to take this up directly with Tony Canavan, who's the CEO of the Sálta Hospital Group. His response, kind of sounds like, I understand your concerns, I think should be published, but, life is not easy. It's complicated. Where does it go from here?
Well, the remedial works that took place identified the shortcomings, and they have shown that once they've been in place, that they have worked. So if we roll back, if that was the starting point for ensuring that the hospital doesn't flood again, and it seems to be working, then why were them type of investigations not taken, or were they taken? Because we had, as I said, the early warnings. We had previous flooding situations where the flood was just diverted. So we knew that this was a problematic site that was prone to flooding. Why were the necessary works and steps not put in place to ensure that flooding wouldn't occur?
All right.
And I think that's what they don't want to expose or explain.
Okay. Now, before I let you go, as you're a Sinn Féin rep and your involvement in the JPC, and because it's in the papers and coming up at meetings today about Owen O'Brien's tweet at the weekend, which has proved controversial. A couple of things I want to say beforehand. I'm not talking about the politics of it because I think most people know the point he was trying to make, that this decision is going to lead to evictions. It depicts, by the way, Gardaí involved with masked men involved in an eviction, by the way, and he had the words, no words needed. So as to say, and also I want to acknowledge that there seems to be people on social media more upset about that image than actually there are of people losing their homes. So all of that, I get it, okay, and I want people to understand I get it, because people get, when you challenge political parties, people can get quite defensive. With all that being said, though, sometimes when you're explaining you're losing, on reflection, do you think maybe he should have put a bit of context into this image, Jerry, or perhaps not even used it, especially ahead of Garda conferences, and the fact that it wasn't Leo Varadkar, Micheál Martin, Eamon Ryan or anyone else the focus of this image? It was Gardaí, and it was Gardaí who've been involved in policing evictions in the past. Don't get me wrong, I acknowledge all of that. But given the fact that he might have to work with Gardaí in the next government, and given the fact you know what guards are going through on the streets, do you think it was perhaps a misstep to at least not contextualise it in the tweet, or do you stand behind it and him 100%?
Look, knowing Owen O'Brien and his passion for the role that he has and spokesperson of Thousand and what he's dealing with on a daily basis, I don't believe it was an attack on the Gardaí. I think it was a very clumsy attempt to highlight the cruelty of this government and its actions wasn't. I don't think his tweet was intended to attack the Gardaí, but it was a clumsy attempt, I think, to highlight the cruelty of the government in relation to the eviction ban being lifted and their lack of concern for the amount of people and families that this is going to put stress onto and make them homeless. And I think that's where he was coming from. As I say, if he thought this morning that he would have caused the furor, would he have done it? No. Was an attack on the Gardaí. I certainly, hand on heart, don't believe that. But I think it was a clumsy attempt to sort of flag up the distress that the lifting of the eviction ban is going to cause an awful lot of families in the time ahead.
Yeah, and I think sometimes
I see that. Yeah. I see that every day in my council work, as do, I'm sure, other elected reps.
Yeah, and I don't want and this shouldn't be a distraction from the main issue, because, as I say, I have noted that some people who've never commented on people being evicted have commented on this. I get that, right? But I do also understand and recognise there's an awful lot of Gardaí in very tough positions out there. And also sometimes who likes and retweets and quotes your comments can be an indication that maybe you missed the mark, if that makes sense. But he hasn't. He said it wasn't about the guards, but he hasn't retracted it or deleted it. But listen, as I say, I just wanted your views in relation to it, and I think you've responded to that. But the real issue here is people losing their homes and not having a roof over their head. And I don't think anyone from any political background is going to lose sight of that.
No, look, I work with the Gardaí as chair of the Donegal Joint Policing Committee on a regular basis, almost daily, and I acknowledge the pressures that they're under, and sometimes they have to take part in some unsavoury types of duty. But Owen's tweet, and as I said, I think it was clumsy, but I don't think it, and I know hand in heart, it was an attack on the ordinary Gardaí, who he respects an awful lot, and we all do. What we need is, and I think people are using this as political football and a way of getting away from the reality here, and the distress that the eviction ban is going to cause hundreds and hundreds of families in the time ahead. And it's something that we all care about. And maybe Owen, in reflection, will acknowledge that he could have put the tweet a bit better.
All right, listen, Councillor McMonagle, thanks as always for your time. He is chair of the Regional Health Forum West, Sinn Féin Rep Councillor Jay McMonagle. Brendan Devaney is coming up in a couple of moments, looking back on the weekend sport in action by way of, we get that out of him for free because really he's coming on to plug his podcast, but we'll use that as an opportunity to get his views on the weekend's action. Stay right where you are.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
There's bingo every Monday night at the Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open at 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €2,200 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy, because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
Are you a small business owner or a startup having issues getting finance? Microfinance Ireland can help. We are a government-funded lender who provide business loans from €2,000 to €25,000. From bike shops to boxing clubs, cafes to creches, we've provided people all over Ireland with the funds they need to set up or grow their business. Find out how we can help you today. Visit microfinanceIreland.ie to apply or talk to your local enterprise office. Microfinance Ireland, helping small businesses with big ideas.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
17 minutes past 11. On to the show. We welcome Brendan Devaney, presenter of Highland Radio's DL Debate. Hey, Bren.
Yes, Greg, how are you?
I'm all right. So we holding you back or anything? Everything all right there?
No, Alexa wouldn't listen to me there. She doesn't like the sound of my voice.
Well, apparently a quarter of us have to dumb down our accent for Alexa.
She doesn't want to switch you off, you see. I think that's it.
Congratulations on your appearance on the BBC podcast. What's it called again? GAA... Social, sorry, I know it, but it just couldn't come to me. We've talked a little bit about what you talk about in the podcast here. It's you're an open enough person anyway, but it's had a huge reaction and it's going to impact people in a positive way, I think. So, well done to you and the team behind it.
No problem. Yeah, Greg, it's a bit of a strange thing going into those subjects because normally, well, for one now, I'm often asking questions or it's just GA, but that was kind of more a look back at life and life in general and that, and it was a bit overwhelming actually. The messages have been unreal, like people have been so kind, but when you hear it back then you think I could have said this better or that better.
Nah, don't worry, never listen back. That's nonsense.
No, I listened to it once.
One take, that's it, and if it's not good, it's not good. But no, it is. Listen, and we're always our worst critic. Did you feel better yourself in sort of not venting a bit, do you know what I mean? Sometimes I think, particularly as lads, and I don't think you're as bad as many of us, that we bottle an awful lot of stuff up, but then it's nice then if you can get it out there, especially if it might benefit other people as well. Did you get a benefit in that way from it, Brendan, or are you open enough book anyway that you're a chatter anyway? But
that's what I'm saying. I thought then that maybe the way you were trying to put your whole life into one, and I was trying to express how I felt at that time. And listen, Greg, that man was playing for Donegal in his 20s. Is a very different person to me now. And I was trying to just, I suppose, examine that and what was going through my head when I was playing and that. And I didn't want it to be overly negative, but I would have been very hard on myself on that, obviously. And I was just trying to...
I have my own theories on that as a young lad, and there's some quite interesting insights into it and about how your performance is connected to how you felt, and wanting to switch off and on and all. And as I say, even in broadcasting, I felt the same way myself in that regard. And a lot of people will relate to that. And then you talk about the awful loss of that you incurred last year as well. As I say, I have no issue cross promoting. The only one thing I will say, I think it's been said on social media and during that podcast that you need to do more behind the mic work stuff. Did I hear you mention the Highland Radio DL debate? No, I did not, Brendan. And that is a black spot in your book. You've got a black card for that one.
The Highland was mentioned.
Was it? All right, okay.
If I had it another 10 minutes, I would have got you. I wasn't even going to mention in the middle of it. But, Greg, obviously talking about the tragedy in that was tough. But it's important to remember them people. And I suppose the people... that have helped us at that time and that. I felt a bit bad then. I didn't maybe thank more people then, because normally, Greg, if you do something, it's been and gone, but because there was so much interest in this, it's almost like one of them moments where you could have said this, and this, but it's done now. And I suppose the good news story, Greg, is we sponsored a couple of children off the back of it. Two people have come on to me and says, give me the link. I want to sponsor a child through Plan International. And the joke about the boat in it, whereas there was talk of saving for a college fund and I was buying a boat. Now, I know, Greg, you know about this, but...
You were just so close. You were so close.
Here's what's happened since then. A guy has offered to buy me a boat.
Brilliant, good stuff. Take that offer. And where are you gonna use it though?
I don't know. Maybe it's too many stout at night or something. I got a text from a fella saying, don't be thinking boat as in some kind of big boat. I mean something very basic like a rib or something. But he was like, hey, me and you has to talk. I'll sort the boat. So I'm like, are you sure about this?
No, listen, come here. And especially with your family, you'll love it. Because I know you were just on the brink last year. So we'll have you out in the water this year one way or other. Brilliant stuff, Brendan.
We'll go for a race. Yeah.
Come here. I'll have to get my engine started first. Come here, before. I enjoyed the 2 games yesterday. What's your reflection on them? I think I like boring games, or I like boring boxing matches. I don't really need it to be all show and other, because I try and look at different elements of the game that, or a fight or something that's, that I find entertaining, or a game of snooker or whatever it could be. Have we established the top 4 teams in the country that we need to keep an eye out this year after the league?
I think so, Greg. I suppose this one is a bit strange to play a league final with championships coming the following week, and that is made everything a bit strange, because there normally is a huge break in the championship, and there always used to be back in the day a massive break. It could be 6-7 weeks, where at times where you really, the league, you're just moving along, and then you lifted it for this huge fitness and training in the championship, particularly the first few weeks of training there. So the fact that teams are playing now, I think a lot of sides, it was a run out. I don't know, it's kind of meaningless to actually win it now. It's all about promotion. So for Dublin and Derry, both back in the top flight where they wanted to be, and deservedly so. I mean, they're 2 top teams, and they're in your top 4 or 5.
Did we learn more about Derry or Donegal, Derry or Dublin yesterday?
I don't know. I suppose goals killed them, Greg. I mean, if you look at the points tally, very, very low for Dublin. So Derry are getting better at what they do. They just got opened up, and the goals killed them. So, I mean, that'll be refined now in the championship. I mean, for Rory Gallagher, was he that worried would win the Division 2? I don't think so. But certainly, if you look at a team like him, that could be their Achilles heel if they're conceding goals. So it's a massive lesson for them to learn now, going into the championship. Now, I was down with Kieran Green at his wee boy's birthday party, so we were watching them on the TV running about after kids. So I have to get Sunday game on the iPlayer again there to have a proper look at it.
Yeah, all right, good stuff. So on the show, Ger Tracy will be going through all of the sport with you as well. So he knows his stuff, top GA man. A new feature, Life Stories. All right, this is actually to some extent turning the tables a little bit, Bren. And I think, from the position you're coming from, it leaves you, in a very good position to interview people as well. So your first guest in this new feature.
Yeah, Nadine Doherty is coming on. She's a former Donegal St. Union star, and she's played everywhere. Greg, her career is absolutely phenomenal, and she's a brilliant person on top of that. I was out at I compared a night for St. Union's ladies there a while back. It was like a reunion night, and they basically bossed football in Donegal in those early years, championships and Ulsters, and got to an All-Ireland club final and that. But Nadine would have played for them. She actually made her debut for St. Union's seniors when she was 12. Greg, it seems crazy. She'd made her debut for Donegal senior ladies when she was 15. And she's captain most of the teams she played for. She played in New York for a couple of years, won championships there, won championships in Dublin with Nafina, captaining teams, and same at St. Pat's Drumcondra when she was doing her teacher training up there. She played basketball, played soccer. Just a phenomenal woman. She landed back actually in 2003 when Donegal won the All-Ireland Junior title. My sister was captain then, but Nadine, sometimes timing can just be right, and it's brilliant for her. She's a deputy head up in Dublin there now. She also does loads of media stuff. She's involved in the GA. She works with RTE and that as well, and she's on many boards. So that night I was doing the compare. I was taking different groups girls up to talk, but just even talking there, she's such a good way with her. And I said to her that night, here, listen, I have to get you on for a chat. So she's coming on first guest. Colin McFadden, one of our heroes of 2012, he's coming on next week. So it's just in between the time of championship and that, Greg, where we haven't got as much going on the pitch as such for Donegal. I just wanted to maybe highlight a few of our former stars and everything they're doing and what they're doing now.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea, as you say. All right, okay, that's Nadine Doherty, Ger Tracy, Brendan Devaney, all coming up for you live here on Highland Radio just after the 7 p.m. news. You can podcast it too on Highland Radio. And the DL debate in association with Sarah's Kitchen at Sister Sarah's in Letterkenny. Brent, listen, again, congratulations. If people want to listen to the podcast, you can go to BBC Sounds. It's an app on your Android or Apple devices, and you can listen to it there. It is well worth a listen. Go ahead, Brent.
Greg, just quick one. Our hurlers were in the league final at the weekend. Listen,
I didn't hear the result. How did they get on?
We have to keep it all. Our minors won as well, but just in the hurlers, don't expect them to be in the Division 2B final. Now, it's somewhere, Division 2A, massive step up, and I think they were beaten by Meath, but they still give a good account of themselves, and it's just the progression of Donegal hurling is phenomenal. Division 2B was a step up that Donegal weren't really able for many years. Now they're very stable. They're actually pushing to go to 2A. So just like just say still well done to Mickey McCann and his team. There's interviews up on the Highland side there. Just from the game, they're getting ready for the Nicky Rackard now as the championship comes ahead. Right?
All right, listen, take care of yourself, Brendan. Thanks very much indeed. All right, Brendan Devaney, to say, or as we said, he's live with you this evening after the 7 o'clock news. We'll be back with more in the 9 till noon show after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Could it get any better as a senior citizen? No sitting in traffic trying to get to work. Heading off on midweek breaks. Out for a bite to eat whenever it suits. And now that bite to eat costs even less at Kelly's Diner in Letterkenny, with 15% off after 3 every weekday when you spend €15. Meet up for a chat and a bite to eat Monday to Friday with an extra 15% off the menu for all senior citizens at Kelly's Diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more? Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
Dillon's Hotel, Letterkenny is the perfect place to celebrate special occasions. Dillon's exclusive function rooms cater for up to 120 guests for any occasion, from corporate celebrations, presentations and networking events, to milestone birthdays, anniversaries and retirement parties. There's audio-visual equipment, integrated PA systems and even a private bar. Dillon's Hotel, perfectly located in Letterkenny Town Centre with award-winning food and 5-star service. Call 91-22977. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to roll out the red carpet and celebrate the best and brightest in the business world for the Highland Radio Customer Service Awards in association with PGM Ireland.
From your local community centre to your favourite pet shop or your friendly dentist, we're recognising the businesses who are making a difference in your community.
This award is a great way to show your appreciation for the businesses that make a difference in your life.
But you better act fast. The deadline for entries is just around the corner. So visit our website and nominate now. Nominations close this Friday, the 7th of April.
Okay, delighted to welcome onto the show this morning Daniel O'Donnell. Good morning to you, Daniel. Thanks so much for chatting to us here.
Hi. Thanks, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and congratulations on a couple of fronts. Firstly, had a few people I know well at the concert last week. Absolutely loved it. Class act as always from you, Daniel, and the rest of the artists that you showcased. And also, great show on Friday. I've only seen bits and bobs, but it's great to see country music showcased on such a platform. And what a lovely honour for you and some of your friends to be honoured by An Post. How does it feel?
Well, you know, it's amazing, really. I suppose I never thought that my face would be on a stamp. It's kind of unbelievable, really, you know, that the stamps can go anywhere now. They can go all over the world. So, yes, it's a great honour. It's a great honour for country music too to be you know, linked with such an honour. And I think it's testament to what country music has meant to the Irish public. You know, there's an awful lot of people that have enjoyed country music for many, many years. So I suppose there's 5 of us, you know, that are honoured or on the stamps. But I think country music in general has been, you know, applauded, not just us. But I feel very privileged that I'm one of the 5 that was chosen.
Yeah, and it's great for the industry, I think, and anyone in it, that country music is front and centre and showcased to the entire population, not just those who have a love of it, although they are great in number. You know what I mean? It's good to see it being promoted for what it is.
Absolutely. And just you mentioned about the concert and the Mount Errigal, we had a great night, and thanks to everybody that attended after 3 years. It was a long time to wait. And thanks to Highland as well. And of course, you know, I go back and say that it was Pio who asked me, I suppose it must be 4 years ago now, would I do this concert to celebrate the 30th anniversary of my opening Highland in 1990, and it was all arranged, and sadly Pio didn't get to see the concert, that we had, but he was very well remembered and always will be remembered by many of us that had a great affection for him. So it was a celebration for Highland, but also a tribute to Pio and all of the other acts. I feel very, very privileged to, share the stage with the younger people too. The four of them were just super. I think anybody that was there would say the same thing. And it was just lovely to be doing the show again.
Is there any other genre of music, and this is not to detract from others, but to elevate country, where there is that support from established artists bringing others through? And it was funny, you mentioned the late, great Pio McCann. It was during his a tribute show. We had stories of people getting their first start here, there and everywhere. And you're continuing that, Daniel. Again, I don't think there's another genre of music that you have established acts that use their platform to try and give others assistance. And I think it's really quite a remarkable part of it all.
Most of it is very, very much a part of country music. And I think that, down through the years, that has been apparent, that singers that are established would encourage younger ones, and I definitely am all for the younger people coming along, because that's what's going to keep country music alive. I remember when I started in 1983, when I was starting out on my own, and people were thinking then that there was no future for country music, and how wrong they were. And then you have all the others that came after me, that bring new life into it, none more than Nathan. When he came along, it was like a rebirth again. And, that'll happen time and time again. And they will bring a new audience to the music. And, myself and David recorded Don't Take the Good Times for Granted that Shuni Crampsey wrote for us. And it just is such a great song. And, to be able to have somebody, like I'm 61 and David is only, I think, is 24. And, that gap is bridged by music. Mm. And that's not just for the singers, that's for the public as well. Music crosses all boundaries. Mm-hmm. And that's the lovely thing about it. But I always encourage young people, if I can at all, or if I hear them on something, that I hear a record, if I can make contact with them. I just put myself, not that I think I'm any great shakes now, but I suppose I've been lucky to have the career I've had. But I think back to when I was starting, if I got encouragement, I think it's very important to do that.
I mean, you talk of luck, but your success comes from much more than that, because I think it's about you and the way you carry yourself. And I think anyone looking on, if they follow some of your examples in that regard, it helps with the luck side of things too, I think, Daniel, is what I'm trying to say. You blazed a trail, and others follow. Amongst those also that blazed a trail was Margot, and she... Yeah. One of the very few recipients of a very prestigious honour, and quite rightly so. Perhaps not another person outside of yourself as deserving as Margot in the honour she received.
Well, definitely she did deserve it, and not just because she's my sister, but she has done so much throughout her career, and done so much for people as well. The people that love Margaret absolutely adore her, and love her music. And she has a huge connection with those that have been following. I hope this award continues. And, Margaret was thrilled to get it. She absolutely was thrilled to get it. And, I think never do we become blasé when we get awards, no matter where they're from. To be applauded for something that you love is amazing, and that's really what that's what's happening for us, and what happened for Margaret on Friday night. But I do think it was well deserved, and I suppose Tom got it thank God, and Philomena got it. You know, it's nice that people get these awards while they're still here to appreciate and be appreciated. All too often we leave it. But there's a lot of people, I suppose, like Larry and Brian Call and Jean Stewart, just to name but a few, and there's more, that are gone, that I would like to see being honoured. You know, even though they're not here, maybe their families could have the award. And then you have the like of Susan McCann, and, you know, there's a lot of people that have, before me, made country music what it is, and a lot after me that have made a huge impact. So, you know, it's really nice that this role of honour is there, and I hope it continues.
Yeah, indeed. And finally, obviously, Daniel, you were on the Late Late Show on Friday. Everyone wants you to take the job. And you have made some comments in relation to that in terms of how they might choose the right person for the job. And I have to say, I do agree fully in what you said in that regard. If the stars aligned, if you got the call, even for 6 months, would you do it, Daniel? Would you?
No, I
Come
wouldn't.
on.
I wouldn't.
3 months.
No, I really wouldn't. You know, no, I wouldn't do it for a week.
That's only one show, Daniel.
I wouldn't. Yeah, do you know what? I just feel that you need to know your strengths, but you also need to know your limitations. And I feel that the Late Late Show is something that you have to have somebody that's able, I suppose, to be light and heavy, you know, and I just would not, I wouldn't have the knowledge to speak to politicians and people like that. I you know, you need to have a huge amount of information in your head, and that's why I say you need to know your limitations. Now, my limitations don't hold me back, but they let me do what I feel I can do.
Yeah, I get you.
And that's the important. It's just like singing a song. You know, I think it's important to know what you're able to sing.
Yeah,
I wouldn't dream of singing them.
Yeah, I get you. Sorry, the line dropped a little bit there, but I understand what you're saying. But it's nice to be.
That's. Oh well, I mean, I'm not obviously. No, I'm not going to be considered for that. But even that people say it.
That's what I was going to say.
Kind of flattering,
nice, yeah.
but
do you have someone you'd like to see have a go at it, or? See, there's so many great candidates, I suppose you could say. But
well, there are so many great candidates. I love Daithí O'Shea myself, and I think Daithí would be able to, you know,
Switch
I think he'd be able for the lighter side, and I'm sure he'd be able for the interviews that needed a lot of attention and a lot of seriousness too. But I mean, there's a lot of people there, obviously. I haven't really heard Daithí being mentioned. Now, he's obviously he's very successful at what he's doing, but I do think he would do it well, just from somebody that I haven't seen much said about. But I'm sure those that are going to pick will pick somebody that they feel is right. And that's what I said in the paper.
Yeah.
You know, there's all this thing about it should be a woman. It should be a woman if she's the right person for the job. You know, this thing of equality, of course we're all equal, but you must never put somebody into something that they're not going to be comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's a strain and a stress on somebody if you find yourself standing in a spot that you're not fit for.
Yeah, and very finally, you know, when it changed hands the last time, it was a very, very different world. I fear for the backlash for many different reasons, regardless of who gets it the next time. I think I'd fear that it could be a short-lived stint, and we could see the end of it, because we live in a world now where everyone has an opinion and everyone has a platform to express that opinion, and it might be guided by different things that are in their head. And I just think it's going to be a tough gig for whoever takes it on, Daniel, for those reasons.
Yeah, well, do you know what I would say, Greg, is that I don't think the majority speaks about everything. I don't think the majority speak. The majority enjoy, and the minority speak.
All right, I think that's profound. On those words, thanks for your time. I know you're up to your ears, as you always are, so we appreciate you making your time for us available, Daniel. Have a lovely day. Congratulations again.
Thank
and congratulations
you,
to Margot and everyone else. Thank you very much indeed. That is the literally one and only Daniel O'Donnell.
New football boots for the season ahead at Brian McCormick Sports. Classic triple black boots in soft ground. Adidas Predator accuracy with improved texture across the strike zone in classic soft ground sole unit. Try the classic Puma King Top SG with a sleek soft leather in classic 6-stud for extra grip. Get back to training with all your essentials, shorts, socks, gum shield and kit bag. Brian McCormick Sports, Main Street, Letterkenny. Click bmcsports.ie.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy. Because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water, and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with the family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Lanzarote, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Wouldn't it be nice to take off? Don't forget, if you want to take off up to a value of €10,000, you can take yourself to the Highland Radio website and enter a holiday draw. You've got just a couple of days, 3 days in fact. It's 2 days and a bit, if the truth be told, to get your tickets. There's a €10,000 holiday voucher and also then €5,000 cash in spending money. You can have one big splurge of a holiday, or you can have multiple holidays to the value of €10,000. Just check out our website, highlandradio.com. And you could be availing of some of those flights out of Knock, Dublin, Belfast, wherever the fancy takes you. Tickets at €10. That's the most you'll pay for one ticket. If you just want to have a dabble, you can buy 6 for €50. So if you want to get them yourself or group in with other people and get them cheaper, 10 for 80. You can do that too. Whichever way, don't miss out. Grab a few family and friends together and you can get tickets for €8. A mostly dry day today with a mix of cloud and hazy sunny spells. Some spots of light rain and drizzle will occur. Highest temperatures of 12 to 13 degrees in moderate to fresh south to southeast winds, easing by evening. Now, any of you who are familiar with the show would be aware that we have Dr. Joe Kelly on the show on a regular basis talking history. Not regularly enough, I don't think. And one of the people we focused on in one of the shows was Kay McNulty, who is a remarkable individual. And what I might actually do with the times that are in it, I might actually try and dig out that interview and make it available on our website, because Kay McNulty is going to be honoured, her legacy, with a new memorial. Eamon McFadden is working with the Creasler Community Association on this project and joins us now. Good morning to you, Eamon. Thank you very much for your time today.
Hiya, Greg. Good morning to you.
Now, the event takes place on Monday, April 3rd at 6:30pm. Tell us what's happening and what's being unveiled, Eamon, and then we'll talk a little bit about Kay, I suppose.
Yeah, sure, Greg. So, tonight we're unveiling a memorial here in Creasler in the village, just at an area known as the Corner of the Gardens, just as you approach the village here. And it was just something we've been working on for the last while. We remember a number of years ago, people remember that they had a big day to commemorate, remember Brady Gallagher while she was still alive, and that was a great success. Now, sadly, Kay McNulty has passed away since, but she was born in Creasler, and we think it's time that maybe there was something done to recognise the legacy that she left in science and technology here in her home village as well. So we've been working with the National Plaques Commemoration Committee, who have commissioned a piece, and also with the Creasler Community Association as well. So we have a nice interpretive panel and a commemorative plaque, all built on a nice handmade stone plinth that we're going to unveil tonight here. Something that will hopefully maybe give people an insight into who Kay was, what type of person she was, her achievements, and maybe help inspire the next generation of young people in STEM subject, science, technology, engineering and mathematics as well. So that's what's really happening tonight.
And we were talking about people like Margot, a trailblazer in music, Kay, a trailblazer in her chosen area, and a big push on to get more women in particular into STEM subjects. Kay, as you mentioned, has sadly passed on, but she'll be well represented because there will be people visiting, I understand, and also too, of course, her deep roots, her family connections in and around Creasler.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. You're 100%, because there's still a significant amount of the family members of the McNultys that are in the Harkins, the Nailises. These are all related into these families. So there's a lot of these people here as well. And we're lucky, too, to have Kay's granddaughter, Naomi, Most, is visiting here tonight. She's going to be our guest to unveil the plaques for us. She's a computer developer herself, very much inspired by her grandmother. And she talks fondly about Kay and the kind of very down-to-earth person she was. And so it's nice to have that connection, to think that we'll have someone who travelled all the way from San Francisco to be here just to unveil our plaque, you know, that people will enjoy for many years to come.
I mean, legacy is really important, but that's a particularly beautiful legacy to inspire your granddaughter to continue in the same field that you did. I mean, what an impact to have on another human. I think it's remarkable. We shouldn't forget, of course, because this is all about Kay being one of the world's first computer programmers. And you can imagine all she would have had to overcome to get to the top of her field. It's a remarkable story right across the county, and actually not least in Creeslough and surrounding areas, Eamon. We have trailblazers. Sorry to use that word again, but, you know, people that either stayed here or went from here and were incredibly, incredibly influential.
Oh, yeah, wholeheartedly. I mean, I suppose Kay maybe didn't get the full recognition during her lifetime, I think, of what she actually had achieved. Now, it was interesting that the first computer that she helped to pioneer program, the ENIAC, was designed by a guy called Dr. John Mockley and Press Eckhart. Now, Kay ultimately ended up marrying John Mockley. So the pioneer who designed the first reprogrammed computer and one of the very first programmers ended up having a family. So you can imagine the family are deeply embedded in the history of all this. But Trailblazer is what she was. There was just 6 women who had to learn to program that. The device was actually designed and constructed, but even at that point, it wasn't fully sure how it would work. So it took Kay and those women to actually go from the grassroots up to learn every aspect of the machine. Now, this isn't a small machine now like we have our laptops at home. This is a machine that had over 18,000 valves in it. It was about 1,800 feet in floor space, and it weighed around 30 tons. This thing was absolutely a behemoth of a machine, but that's what set the path for the first programmable computer, and that's the legacy that we see today. It paved the way for the connected computer-generated, the computer world we live in today. You can put it down to just a handful of those people.
I mean, everything, the mobile phone that people have in their hands, the laptops you mentioned, the computer on which we're streaming, space exploration, do you know what I mean? Everything really, in some way.
Health, everything, you can
health,
understand
it all goes back to
everything, you know. It all goes back to that there. And initially, it was ENIAC was to help work out trajectories during the Second World War. This is what it was primarily developed for, but it never saw active service during that time. So afterwards, it was used for primarily peaceful means to solve like engineering problems and things like this. And that's the way it was used right up until the 1950s, until it was superseded by the next generation computer, which they helped to pioneer as well.
Yeah. Okay. And I presume you didn't have to beg Naomi to come over because, you know, it's a great honour to the families that you mentioned, not least the McNultys and her direct descendants, the likes of Naomi Most. It's lovely for them to see Kay getting the recognition now that you quite rightly pointed out that perhaps has taken up until recently to really be given to her.
I think it's a proud time for them. They grew up, in that environment of the parents being technology pioneers, but they always kept a strong connection with Creeslough and Donegal. That was always foremost in Kay's life throughout her life. So the fact that they think that we're doing something here for them, I know it means a lot to them. I'd be in regular contact with Kay's daughter Ginny in America, who unfortunately couldn't attend, and also her son Bill. They'll get to attend here in the future, and it'll be nice when they do get here to see that, you know, what Kay's legacy does mean for the people of Creeslough, what it can mean possibly to the next generation. But we'll have a bit of fun tonight now with the like of Naomi here as well. She's going to talk more about Kay and the type of person she was and all that when we're here. So we look forward to that as well.
Isn't it quite remarkable, Eamon, how things have progressed when we're talking about someone so influential in the creation of something that we all benefit from and use from directly and indirectly. And you talk of, you know, her children still being alive and her granddaughter travelling over and still very active in that field. Isn't it astonishing how from that acorn, this incredibly large oak, for all its faults at times, has grown in such a short period of time. Like, you know, it's history, but my word, it's not that far removed from now.
No, and it's funny, I suppose, the twists of fate in Kay's life that ultimately saw her been born in Creeslough. She grew up here until as a native Irish speaker until she's about 3 or maybe 4 years old, and that's when the family emigrated. She arrived in America as a native Irish speaker, hadn't a word of English, but by the time she started school, she could speak English. You know, she was very bright. So the twists and turns of fate that ultimately led her to go to college to study mathematics, to find a job that was where a mathematician was required, as opposed to just something like teaching, for example. So she, you know, it's all those quirks that have led her to the path that she was. So it's a remarkable story that's what got her to the position that has ultimately helped to change the world we live in today, you know.
All right, so, it's going to be a lovely, dry, bright evening at 6:30 p.m. at the corner of the garden in Creeslough Town. It is. It's going to be a lovely, dry, bright evening.
Thanks to heavens, yeah.
And I think it's going to be a lovely family event, and I think particularly for young people as well, to go along to with their families, and you know, especially to be able to hear from Naomi too, because it's amazing. One little event in life can change your path in life as well, and who's to say someone might not be influenced this evening to become the next Kay McNulty. Fair play to you, Eamon, and all at the Creeslough Community Association for pursuing this and bringing it to fruition. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I'm sure you will. And it's just a great thing. So we appreciate you coming on with us today.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Greg. That's really good. And say everybody's welcome. And thanks again for having us on.
No, it's our pleasure. It's 6:30 tonight at the corner of the garden of Creeslough Town, or in Creeslough Town. It's a newly created monument unveiled in Creeslough to honour the pioneering work of the late Kay McNulty, one of the world's first computer programmers. And just whilst I'm not using this as an opportunity, as a cheap way, by the way, to plug things, but we also spoke to Dr. Joe Kelly about Creeslough, and it was in the wake of the awful tragedy that visited that village and many others beyond it, all of us, the country and beyond as well. And we took a time to reflect on the history of Creeslough, and it has an incredibly interesting and rich history. It's so if you fancy passing half an hour or so, maybe it's an hour, I can't recall how long it is, but anyway, go on to YouTube and type Highland Radio Creeslough or Dr. Joe Kelly Creeslough and watch that and listen to it whichever way you prefer. As I say, I hope you'd find it really, really interesting. I want to say a very happy birthday, if you don't mind, to Anne Peoples, who is in St. Johnston, and Anne is celebrating her 70th birthday today. Happy birthday to you, Anne, from all of us here at Highland Radio and the 9 till noon show, of course, but also from the family. I hope you have a wonderful day. Let us get to some more comments that have been coming in. Hi, Greg. Just thought I'd let you know I'm 48 years old, and 2 weeks ago I was waiting 33 hours in the A in Letterkenny, the ED that is. I was waiting for a CT scan. There needs to be a better system. I mean, that's just 33 hours waiting for a CT scan. Another caller says Gardaí should never work with people who wear masks to hide their identity. It gives a very bad impression, especially when the subject is as sensitive as an eviction. We haven't forgotten the very emotive time in our history when families were evicted and their homes destroyed. Many will use this comparison to further their own agenda. Indeed. And that's why I was trying to have the conversation not in the context of was it an appropriate way to make the point. Morning, Greg. Listening to the councillor, I wonder, is this why the powers that be don't want Sinn Féin in government? They'll uncover a lot that our 11 years of the same government are hiding. Just a thought, thank you. Well, I don't think a government may necessarily... Do you know what actually will be very interesting? To see how quickly some of these reports are published if there is a change in government, and that is by no means guaranteed. But we shall see how quickly these reports get published thereafter. Caller says it is public money that was spent after the flood. People, we have a right to know what it was spent on. Truckloads of skips leaving the hospital. Where did it go? A caller says, my dad was in hospital last weekend. His GP sent him and the care he got was amazing. I never in my life seen crowds like it at the ED. The staff that we met was stretched to the limit, and some of them from other wards called in to cover short-staff situations. I'm not sure what's needed to help with the overcrowding EDs, but something needs to change. Good luck with the new pathway initiative. Well, listen, as we said in our conversation with John Joe, the Pathway Initiative is not in and of itself going to change it, but hopefully it's one of the measures that can be employed that will help. That's all we can hope for. And looking at the numbers from John Joe there, that it might prevent attending the hospital, you can see it's bound to have some level of an impact. Whether or not we as users see it, hopefully the staff do. When are these delays going to stop? I had thought the new HSE premises in Buncrana were going to carry out x-rays too. Is it still only used for the doctors? I'm not really quite sure the answer to that question. A caller says, I feel, this is as it relates to weight loss, I feel that there needs to be so much more psychological preparation for those going the surgery route. It seems that there is in Ireland, but from having close friends who went to Turkey, it seems it's more about the physical preparation and aftercare. The physical side seems to be really well planned and followed up on, but given the huge surgery, it is the psychological side needs huge improvements. And I think you're onto something there. But also in terms of the aftercare, it has to be said it is the HSE that ends up picking up on that. I know that because we had one of the gentlemen who does the aftercare, and there are complications with some of it, according to our conversation with him. Okay, listen, that's where we have to leave it for today.